Chapter 266. Yin Clan. Xiaochen was deep in thought. In the entire Shihe province, only the Yin clan would be able to take out 10,000 spirit stones so casually. Xiaochen put away the name card and waited for the merchant to go far away. Then he said, "We cannot spend the night here. We have to rush to the port before it gets dark. Someone is already watching us." Lu Suifeng nodded his head. A transaction of 10,000 inferior-grade spirit stones was already a large transaction in this small town. Furthermore, the two of them were only inferior-grade martial saints. It would be strange if they were not targeted. The two of them returned to the inn and packed up. After they restocked their rations, they quickly rode the dragon blood horse out of the nameless town. The sun set in the west. The setting sun looked like blood. Large patches of red clouds dyed the entire western sky red. The afterglow of the sun shone on Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng, giving them a faint glow. Two long shadows appeared on the road. Dong, dong, dong. The intruders were faster than the two of them had expected. They had only traveled for about 10 minutes before they were blocked by a group of cultivators wielding weapons and surging with killing chi. Xiaochen quickly scanned the group in front of him. There was a total of 18 people. The weakest of them was an inferior-grade martial saint. Two of them were even superior-grade martial saints. Xiaochen's gaze lingered on the two of them. One of them was dressed in white. He held a sword in his hand. The tip of the sword gave off a piercingly cold light. Under the light of the setting sun, it looked very dazzling. The other person had his arms exposed. His upper body was covered in battle armor. He held a 2-meter-long spear in his hand. He had a ferocious expression on his face. There was a group of cultivators standing behind the two of them. It looked like the two groups were together. The white-clothed swordsman slowly walked forward. He looked at Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng and revealed a faint smile. "We are only here for wealth. We do not wish to harm anyone. Leave behind the spirit stones in your hands, and I will guarantee your safety." The other spear-wielding blue-clothed man released his killing intent without holding back. His eyes revealed a ferocious glint as he said viciously, "I do not have much patience. Hurry up and take the initiative. It will be good for everyone. Otherwise, I will make it hard for you to die." The two of them slowly unleashed their superior-grade martial saint auras, pressing heavily on Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng. The two huge auras merged together. Even the air turned solid, making breathing difficult. Lu Suifeng could not help but panic. He took out his identity token and said, "We are Heavenly Saber Pavilion core disciples. Quickly move aside and I will pretend nothing happened. Otherwise, even if you flee to the ends of the earth, you will not be able to escape the pursuit of the Divine Saber Camp." Xiaochen shook his head. His hand subconsciously moved to the hilt of his saber. This group of people already knew who they were. Otherwise, they would not waste so much time talking nonsense. If Xiaochen were an inferior-grade martial saint without any background, he would have charged over without any fear. He would not have used such small tricks to threaten and scare him. They were probably afraid of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's revenge. However, since this group of people dared to chase after them, it meant that they were fugitives. They did not fear the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's revenge. It would be best if they did not offend the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. If they offended them, they would just have to take a large sum of spirit stones. If they left the Shihe province and hid at the ends of the earth, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would not be able to do anything to them. They slowly gathered their auras and did not release them. The sky above their heads turned dark without them realizing it. Dark clouds churned. The might of thunder was formed. The blue-clothed spearman smiled coldly. "Do you think I am easy to scare? You are just two inferior-grade martial saint core disciples. Will the Heavenly Saber Pavilion mobilize the Divine Saber Camp for you? I will say it again. Take the initiative to hand over all the spirit stones in your hands." The white-clothed spearman continued to reveal a faint smile. He looked very calm as he said, "The two of you, we are only seeking wealth. We do not have any other intentions. Leave the spirit stones behind. That would be the best for everyone." Of the two of them, one was playing the good cop, and the other was playing the bad cop. If it were a sect disciple without much experience, they would definitely hand over the spirit stones in their hands in such a situation. Unfortunately, Xiaochen could not be bothered with them. He swung his right hand, which was on the saber hilt. The aura that he had been gathering burst forth and suppressed the auras of the two of them. Rumble. Suddenly, there was an explosion in the quiet sky. A resplendent saber light lit up the sky, resonating with the lightning descending from the sky. Xiaochen's figure arrived beside the white-clothed spearman in an instant. His saber light flickered and his aura flourished, piercing through the 9 heavens. The white-clothed swordsman was incomparably horrified. He had not expected Xiaochen to make a move so suddenly. Furthermore, the moment Xiaochen made his move, it was a lightning-fast strike. His aura completely suppressed the two of them mercilessly. His speed and strength were at the peak. This was not a rookie. From the start, the other party did not intend to flee or hand over the spirit stones. However, the white-clothed swordsman thought that victory was in his grasp. They did not know that the other party was preparing a startling strike. In that instant, the white-clothed swordsman thought of many things. He did his best to retreat. However, he had lost the initiative, and his aura fell to rock bottom. How could he dodge Xiaochen's peak strike with a flourishing aura, which he had been preparing for a long time? Wuxia. The saber light flickered, and a horrifying wound appeared on the white-clothed swordsman's chest. Blood spurted out like a fountain. The saber contained the power of lightning, knocking the white-clothed swordsman back, and sending him crashing to the ground. The blue-clothed swordsman at the side reacted quickly. He swung his spear, and a fire dragon condensed on the spear, circling it and roaring ferociously. The blue-clothed swordsman wanted to stop Xiaochen and make him give up on chasing the injured white-clothed swordsman. Bang! The spear roared, and the fire dragon immediately swallowed up Xiaochen's figure. The blue-clothed swordsman rejoiced in his heart. I thought you are very powerful, but you are only SOSO. However, before the blue-clothed swordsman could smile, he saw the figure that the spear struck shatter. However, it was only an afterimage. Blue dragon swings its tail, seeing the cool breeze, not the saber. Xiaochen had already leaped out from the side. He moved in a purple arc, and a cool breeze blew. In an instant, he passed through the crowd and headed for the white-clothed swordsman. The white-clothed swordsman was startled. He spun the sword in his hand and fired it at Xiaochen, who was flying through the air. Xiaochen clenched his left hand into a fist and circulated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art at the same time. All the bones in his body crackled as he punched, causing the air to tremble. Bang! The tip of the fist struck the tip of the sword, and the sword immediately shattered into countless pieces. Xiaochen's essence trembled, and the shattered pieces scattered in all directions. Xiaochen's momentum did not decrease. Just as he was about to get close to the white-clothed swordsman, the lunar shadow saber in his hand disappeared. He withdrew his killing chi, making it hard for others to grasp it. When the cool breeze blew, the white-clothed swordsman's heart turned ashen. He knew that this was the famous secret technique of the heavenly saber pavilion, the clear wind chop. Once it got close, there was no way to dodge it. Furthermore, the white-clothed swordsman was severely injured. His body was not at its peak. There was no way he could dodge. Furthermore, the others were all dodging. No one would be able to help Xiaochen with the chaotic saber attacks he just created. Even if I die, I will drag you down with me. The white-clothed swordsman revealed a ferocious expression as he roared. The dantian in his body glowed faintly. He was going to use a secret technique to self-destruct. Xiaochen's expression did not change. He increased his speed, and arrived before the white-clothed swordsman in a flash. When the light was at its brightest, the lunar shadow saber appeared from nowhere, and stabbed into the white-clothed swordsman's dantian. The lunar shadow saber appeared from nowhere, and stabbed into Xiaochen's dantian. Xiaochen did not stop moving. He quickly kicked this person away. Bang! That swordsman's corpse exploded in midair. Instantly, not even his bones remained. Only a rain of blood remained, filling the sky. The white-clothed swordsman was actually not weak. Under normal circumstances, if Xiaochen wanted to kill him, he would need at least 100 moves before he could do so. Unfortunately, the white-clothed swordsman was too careless at the start. He did not expect Xiaochen to suddenly make a move. He also did not expect Xiaochen's attack to be so ferocious. He was caught off guard and was severely injured. After that, there was no longer any suspense. After the white-clothed swordsman died, some of the cultivators fighting with Lu Suifeng immediately fled. These were the white-clothed swordsman's subordinates. Since the white-clothed swordsman was already dead, there was no need for them to remain here. Only the blue-clothed spearman and his 8 subordinates remained. The white-clothed swordsman's death caused the blue-clothed swordsman to panic. He no longer had the drive he had at the start. The blue-clothed swordsman knew that this person was not an ordinary inferior-grade martial saint. There was definitely something extraordinary about him. In terms of pure combat prowess, he was already comparable to a superior-grade martial saint. The blue-clothed swordsman's aura had already fallen. If he wanted to reform it, he would have to spend some effort. Using an aura that had fallen to rock bottom to resist the other party's soaring aura was clearly not a wise move. Retreat. The blue-clothed spearman shouted decisively. He stared at Xiao Chun and kept his guard up as he leaped backward continuously. This person was very experienced in combat. He was also very cautious. When he retreated, he did not reveal his back. After the blue-clothed swordsman was far away, and was certain that Xiao Chun would not chase after him, he immediately turned around and increased his speed. After a while, he disappeared from Xiao Chun's sight. Lu Suifeng, who was at the side, felt it was strange. Given Xiao Chun's character, he would not let the blue-clothed swordsman off so easily. Xiao Chun stood where he was and muttered to himself in silence. The blue-clothed swordsman had left for a long time already. However, Xiao Chun did not move at all. His aura did not relax at all. He maintained his guard at all times. When Xiao Chun made a move to kill the white-clothed swordsman, he felt a horrifying killing chi coming from the sky. In that instant, he even felt the danger of death. Furthermore, this aura was very well hidden. When Xiao Chun caught it, it immediately disappeared and everything returned to normal. Xiao Chun extended his spiritual sense out in all directions. However, he did not catch anything in his mind. However, the more it was like this, the more cautious Xiao Chun became. He did not dare to relax his aura. Lu Suifeng felt that something was wrong. He asked in a soft voice, "Yi Chun, what's wrong?" Xiao Chun looked at a certain cloud in the sky and said, "Along the way, I felt a pair of eyes staring at us. Just now, I finally confirmed that he wants to kill me. This person is at least a peak superior grade martial saint. Furthermore, he knows a flying martial technique. The worst case scenario is that he is a martial king." Lu Suifeng was horrified. He revealed a worried expression as he asked, "What should we do?" Chapter 267. Xiao Chun sheathed his saber and smiled faintly. "It's fine, there is no need to worry too much. If this person's strength was really horrifying, he would not have followed us for so long. Earlier he gave up on making a move. He lost the chance to kill me forever. This person is overly cautious. He lacks the sharpness of a cultivator. He will forever be a second-rate expert." Up in the clouds, Yu Mingshan was originally preparing to make a move. However, at the last moment, he suddenly discovered that Xiao Chun had already sensed his killing chi. Based on the principle of being cautious, a killing move that the opponent had already sensed would not be considered a killing move. This had always been Yu Mingshan's principle. This was also something he had learned as a lone cultivator. He had lived for a long time. There were many opportunities, so he could not attack blindly. Seeing Xiao Chun and Lu Suifeng leave, Yu Mingshan said indifferently, "Looks like I have to hide my killing chi even deeper next time. I have to kill him in one move and not leave behind any hidden dangers." When the sun had completely set, Xiao Chun and Lu Suifeng finally arrived at the port of the Black Dragon River. The port was brightly lit, illuminating the shore like it was daytime. Huge merchant ships appeared in Xiao Chun's vision. This was an eye-opener for Xiao Chun. Most of the ships were 40 to 50 meters tall, and 500 to 600 meters long. They were no different from the super tankers in his previous life. When Lu Suifeng saw that Xiao Chun was astonished, he explained, "There are many water monsters in the Black Dragon River. Furthermore, the waves are very strong. A regular medium-sized merchant ship would not be able to withstand even a single wave. Furthermore, many of these merchant ships are going out to sea. The situation on the surface of the sea is even more complicated. If the ship is not made larger, it would not be able to withstand even a normal wave. Not to mention the sea monsters. So that's how it is. The doubts in Xiao Chen's heart cleared up. The two of them found the person in charge of a merchant ship and stated their intentions. Then they paid 10,000 gold taels each and obtained the right to board the ship. The two of them rode their dragon blood horses to the bow of the ship. The deck was very wide, so it did not seem crowded at all. Immediately, a waiter from the merchant ship came over and took their dragon blood horses away. Although the ship was large, horses were not allowed on the ship. The deck was filled with cultivators preparing to hitch a ride on the ship. There were probably many of them who were going to Shiha City to participate in the auction. Xiao Chen stood at the bow of the boat and gently leaned on the railing. A cool breeze blew across the river. The breeze contained a refreshing smell of the river water, making people feel much better. Xiao Chen gazed at the vast dark surface. The night did not affect his vision at all. He could clearly see the scene on the surface of the river. The width of the Black Dragon River was much wider than he had imagined. These huge merchant ships were like black dots on the dark surface, not even taking up 1% of the river. At first glance, if it wasn't for the color of the river, one would have mistaken it for the sea. Lu Suifeng walked forward and said, "Yi Chun, the ship will depart tomorrow morning. There are no more empty rooms on the ship. We will have to spend the next 3 days on the deck." The merchant ship was different from the passenger ship. Most of the space on the ship was filled with goods. Furthermore, the two of them arrived late. It was not strange that they did not have any empty rooms. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. "It's nothing much. I have already spent so many days on the savannah. It is just 3 days on the deck." After finding an empty space, Xiao Chen sat down cross-legged and entered into a state of cultivation. However, there were many people here. If he cultivated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, it would cause a huge commotion. Xiao Chen did not want to attract too much attention. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art slowly circulated. Xiao Chen was prepared to cultivate this cultivation technique that was specially used for tempering the body. The many cultivators on the deck were all cultivating. Very few of them spoke. The river was very quiet. Early the next morning, the light of dawn broke through the last traces of darkness and shone on the deck. The cultivators slowly woke up. Xiao Chen also opened his eyes. The instant he got up, the bones in his body gave off a pili-pa-pa sound. He felt very comfortable and energetic. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art only had a total of 5 layers. The first 2 layers were the foundation. The last 3 layers were the true tempering of the body. Xiao Chen had already practiced the 4th layer, Dragon Roar, Tiger Roar, piercing the heavens. He was currently heading towards great perfection. If he practiced it to great perfection, a casual roar from Xiao Chen would be equivalent to the roar of a dragon or tiger. The drawn-out energy would be able to pierce through the 9 heavens and scatter the clouds in the sky. As for the 5th layer, Dragon Tendon Tiger Bone, pulling mountains and rivers' strength, it would be a true rebirth. Ordinary weapons would no longer be able to injure Xiao Chen. Furthermore, his qi and blood would increase rapidly. His strength could reach more than 10,000 kilograms of force. The crisp sound of bones attracted the attention of the surrounding cultivators. In that instant, everyone seemed to see an indistinct dragon and tiger hidden in Xiao Chen's body. It is rare to see a cultivator who specializes in tempering the body. The strength of the physical body is still a lower level. After one becomes a martial king, the might of essence becomes incomparably horrifying. A casual punch can split mountains. Tempering the body is just a waste of time. Indeed, in the martial saint realm, a strong physical body might give one an advantage in the early stages. However, in the later stages, the quality of one's essence is the most important. If he wanted to use his physical body alone, he would be a good seedling. Unfortunately, he is cultivating both. Sooner or later, he will not be able to take care of both. In the end, his cultivation will only stagnate. When many cultivators saw Xiao Chen's strong physical body, they all sighed. Their words were filled with pity. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and ignored them. He believed that he was on the right path. This was especially so after he saw the secret manual left behind by the previous pavilion master in the underground world. His conviction grew even stronger. If one cultivated both the physical body and essence at the same time, one's cultivation would indeed be slower than others. Perhaps Xiao Chun would enter the martial sage realm much later than others of the same generation. However, without a strong physical body, it would be impossible for a martial sage to enter the Emperor Wu realm. Or rather, the possibility was very small. At that time, he would surpass everyone else. When Xiao Chun walked to the bow of the ship, he did not know when the huge merchant ship had set off. The ship broke through the huge waves on the river surface as it moved quickly. Xiao Chun was somewhat astonished. He did not expect such a huge ship to be able to move so fast on the water. He did not know what kind of propulsion it used. Lu Suifeng walked over to Xiao Chun's side and asked, "Yi Chen, do you think that expert is still watching us?" Xiao Chun looked up at the sky and said, "I'm not sure. This person hides very well. I cannot feel his aura. However, my intuition tells me that he is still above us. There is a sea monster in front." Just as the two of them spoke, someone on the deck suddenly exclaimed. Xiao Chun and Lu Suifeng quickly rushed over. They saw a huge whirlpool appear on the water a kilometer in front. After a while, a 200-meter-tall waterspout formed on the water surface and quickly headed for the merchant ship. Huchi! Huchi! The surface of the water started to ripple continuously. The boat also shook a few times. Xiao Chun extended his spiritual sense and saw a huge, strange black fish at the end of the boat. Lu Suifeng asked suspiciously, "What is that?" Someone at the side replied, "That is a black tuna whale, a peak rank 6 spirit beast. It is considered a tyrant of this Black Dragon River. It comes up a few times every year. The merchant ships that meet it do not have a good ending. How unlucky we actually met it." When the cultivators on the deck heard the name of the strange fish, they started to panic. Seeing the waterspout getting closer, many cultivators made a prompt decision and jumped off the ship. They executed their movement techniques and pushed off the water surface, rushing back. When Lu Suifeng saw the other cultivators jumping off the ship, he asked, "Yi Chen, are we going to jump off the ship?" Xiao Chun looked around and discovered that the people jumping off the ship were the younger cultivators. Although the older cultivators had panic on their faces, no one thought of jumping off the ship. They even looked at the people jumping off the ship, as if they were watching a joke. Xiao Chun shook his head and said, "Let's wait and see first. There is no rush. The older, the wiser." Since most of the old men on the deck did not choose to jump off the ship, there had to be a reason that the two of them did not know. They decided to wait and see first. Pussy-eye! Pussy-eye! Suddenly, miserable cries came from the river. Xiao Chun and Lu Suifeng turned their heads to take a look. They saw the cultivators leaping on the water surface being attacked by the strange fish. They screamed miserably as they fell into the water. When they fell into the water, countless strange fish immediately swarmed over. There was a series of ka-sie sounds. After a while, only a pile of bones was left. Fresh blood dyed the black surface crimson, attracting even more strange fish. The teeth of the strange fish were incredibly sharp. The essence barriers of the cultivators could not block them. Their bodies were also very tough. When weapons hacked on them, they could not kill them. Not long after, the cultivators who abandoned the ship were all killed by the strange fish. Only a few cultivators with outstanding movement techniques managed to board the merchant ship, and were lucky enough to survive. From then on, no more cultivators dared to jump off the ship blindly. With a living example in front of them, no one would be so foolish. A bunch of fools. They are not even martial kings, yet they dare to cross the Black Dragon River. How reckless, someone mocked. However, when they saw the approaching waterspout and the surging waves, the crowd did not show any expressions of schadenfreude. Huchi! Suddenly, two surging sword chi flew out from the bow of the ship. They were 100 meters long. Everywhere they went, they kicked up huge waves on the water, heading for the waterspout. Someone said joyfully, "The guards of the merchant ship made a move. Based on the might of the sword chi, they should be peak superior grade martial saints." A peak rank 6 spirit beast is only as strong as an inferior grade martial king. If there are 2 peak martial saints and we add in some strength, we might be able to avoid this calamity. Normally, A large merchant ship would have strong cultivators guarding it. A high-ranked merchant association would even have martial kings guarding it. However, there were too few martial kings. If it was not a merchant ship of an inherited clan or the royal court, it would be difficult to hire a martial king to guard it. There were over 100 million cultivators in the Great Qin nation. However, only 10,000 of them could become martial kings. Furthermore, these 10,000 people would be divided among the noble clans, sects, and the royal court. Thus, a regular merchant association would only be able to invite peak martial saints to help them. Chapter 268. This merchant ship was able to hire 2 peak martial saint guards. It was already very strong. Bang! 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 2 surging sword qi struck the waterspout and gave off a loud sound. Huge waves surged on the surface of the water. The merchant ship shook a few times before it slowly came to a stop. Under the attack of the sword qi, the 200-meter-tall waterspout weakened significantly in might and speed. However, it did not disappear completely. It continued to surge towards the merchant ship. When Xiaochen saw the waterspout getting closer, he quickly thought for a while. Finally, he decided to make a move. Firstly, he wanted to test the strength of his physical body. Secondly, he wanted to save himself. After making up his mind, Xiaochen pushed off the deck and created a purple arc as he headed for the waterspout. Xiaochen's bones crackled as he circulated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. His body gave off a faint golden glow and a golden tiger image spun around him. Ferocious tiger leaving the mountains. Xiaochen shouted. It was like the roar of a tiger. His aura was suddenly raised to its peak state. The image of the ferocious tiger entered his fist and struck the towering waterspout. Bang! The incomparably surging waterspout was stopped for an instant by this punch. The huge rebound caused Xiaochen to fly back 10 meters. Again. Xiaochen laughed loudly. The instant he landed on the water, he immediately bounced back up. Xiaochen continued to punch the waterspout, sending punch after punch at it. As Xiaochen punched the waterspout, waves surged on the surrounding river. There was a loud rumbling sound as the river water surged in the air. The torrential rain poured down continuously. Xiaochen's clothes were completely soaked. However, he had a delighted expression on his face. Before everyone's astonished gazes, the waterspout sent out by the black tuna whale was stopped by Xiaochen's fists. It was unable to move forward on the water surface and slowly disappeared. The waterspout turned into rain that filled the sky and landed on the deck. Uchi! Uchi! When the surface of the river finally calmed down, countless strange fish leaped out. They flew towards Xiaochen and opened their mouths. Their sharp teeth flickered with a cold light under the sunlight. Pa! Xiaochen punched, and the strange fish that crashed into him immediately turned into a pool of blood. It fell into the river, dead beyond death. The strange fish that the weapons of the cultivators could not easily kill was killed by Xiaochen with one punch. A cultivator on the deck said in astonishment, "What a strong physical body! To think I misjudged him. Just based on the strength of his physical body, he has the combat prowess of a peak inferior martial saint. I wonder what his martial techniques and essence cultivation are like. If they are as strong as him, in terms of pure combat prowess, a regular superior grade martial saint would not be a match for him. Only a peak martial saint would be a match for him. That is only a slight advantage for now. When he becomes a martial king, if he does not give up on tempering his physical body, he will never have the chance to raise his cultivation." The cultivators on the deck discussed the strength that Xiaochen displayed. They did not expect Xiaochen's physical body to be so strong. The old men who sent out 2 strands of sword qi jumped off the merchant ship. They each sent out another strand of sword qi, and cleaned up the strange fish in the air. The surrounding strange fish no longer dared to come out of the water. They all fled far away. Xiaochen noticed that the sword qi that the 2 old men sent out was very sharp. It was much more condensed than a regular sword qi. It was clear that they had put in a lot of effort. Xiaochen had once heard of people who had no hope of advancing to martial king. They would study their martial techniques and sword qi to their limits to raise their combat prowess. Although such people could not advance to martial king, A regular inferior grade martial king would not dare to let their guard down when they met them. It looked like this was the case for these two old men. The might of their sword chi had probably already reached the limits of what a martial saint could unleash. "Little brother, are you interested in killing this black tuna whale with us? Our merchant association will reward you greatly," one of the old men suggested to Xiaoqun. The other old man also said, "Actually, the strength of this black tuna whale can barely be considered a peak martial saint. However, when it is underwater, its combat prowess will soar. That is why people call it a peak rank 6 spirit beast." Xiaoqun thought so as well. There was a huge difference in strength between a rank 6 spirit beast and a rank 6 demonic beast. This black tuna whale might not be stronger than the rank 6 scarlet demonic snake that Xiaoqun dealt with in the past. Back then, Xiaoqun could kill the scarlet demonic snake with Yun Kursen and the others. Now that he was working with two peak superior grade martial saints, he might be able to kill this black tuna whale. Xiaoqun nodded and said, "Sure." When the two old men saw Xiaoqun nod in agreement, they immediately revealed gratified smiles on their faces. They had personally witnessed Xiaoqun's strength earlier. With his help, they would be more confident in dealing with the black tuna whale. The three of them stepped on the water and executed their movement technique. They started to rush towards the black tuna whale in front. When they got closer, Xiaoqun could clearly see the appearance of the black tuna whale. The part that floated above the water was more than 100 meters long. There were rows of black bone spikes protruding from its back. Before the three of them got close, a huge whirlpool appeared on the water below them. A huge suction instantly sucked the three of them to the bottom. The force of the whirlpool was very strong. The three of them were unable to struggle at all. In an instant, they were sucked to the bottom and their bodies started to spin continuously. Caught off guard, Xiaoqun drank a few mouthfuls of water and closed his eyes. He did his best to maintain his calm. The essence in his body slowly circulated, allowing his body to adapt to the direction of the whirlpool. The other two old men were much more experienced and knowledgeable than Xiaoqun. When they encountered such a situation, they did not panic at all. Xiaoqun circulated his essence and breathed internally, looking for an opportunity to escape. Suddenly, Xiaoqun felt a dangerous aura. He opened his eyes and saw a huge mouth opening up. The whirlpool was currently pulling the three of them towards the huge mouth. As long as the mouth closed up, the black tuna whale would be able to swallow the three of them. Lone peak kill. Xiaoqun shouted in his heart and brandished his saber. An image of a mountain appeared above Xiaoqun's head. In the next instant, it merged into Xiaoqun's body. Immediately, Xiaoqun's figure seemed to have turned into a mountain. It became extremely heavy and instantly broke through the pull of the whirlpool. His body quickly fell to the bottom of the river. Bang! When Xiaoqun's feet landed on the bottom of the river, there was an intense force spreading out in the water. There was a temporary emptiness around Xiaoqun. All the river water was pushed out. The whirlpool that the black tuna whale created was instantly destroyed. The two old men immediately broke free. They each sent out a sword chi at the black tuna whale. The sharp sword chi tore through the obstruction of the river water like an arrow. With a schwa sound, it left two wounds on the back of the black tuna whale. The sword chi did not stop there. It pushed away the river water in front of it and shot towards the surface of the water. The area 1 meter around Xiaoqun was now empty. He took a deep breath of air. Pushing off the ground, Xiaoqun entered the water again and swam towards the black tuna whale. If Xiaoqun continued to stand where he was, when the water surface closed up, the force that was pushing the river water would strike him several times over. Even if Xiaoqun's physical body was strong, he would not be able to endure it. On the calm surface of the river, pillars of water shot up into the sky from time to time. The huge merchant ship kept rocking on the surface of the water. The crowd couldn't see what was going on under the water. They could only watch the intense battle anxiously, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, blood appeared on the clear river water. The crowd exclaimed, "So much blood! I wonder who it belongs to. This black tuna whale is not stupid." From the start, it dragged the three of them to the bottom of the river to fight. Fighting in the water is disadvantageous to the three of them. Indeed, in terms of strength, 3 peak martial saints against a peak rank 6 spirit beast, should have a 50-50 chance of victory. However, now that they are underwater, their chances of victory are only 40%. How about we go down and help? If they die, the black tuna whale will definitely not let us off. Sure, you go down first. I'll go down soon. Why not you go down first? Call me down. Let's go down together. The crowd argued about wanting to go down and help. However, after arguing for a long time, no one dared to go down. These people were only ordinary inferior grade martial saints. Many of them were only peak martial grandmasters. They did not have the courage to go down. Most of them wanted both sides to injure each other. That would be the best result for them. Since they did not need to make a move and the danger was over, they were all watching. Within the crowd, Lu Suifeng had an anxious expression. However, he was afraid that if he went down, he would bring trouble to Xiaochen. He could only hesitate. Bang! 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 Suddenly, there were 3 loud sounds on the surface of the water. It was Xiaochen and the other 2 breaking out of the water. A black dot in the distance was swimming forward quickly. Everywhere it passed, it left a trail of blood. Although the 3 of them had injured the black tuna whale, there was nothing they could do to stop it from escaping. They could only leave it at that. Many thanks for little friend's help, an old man said respectfully as he cupped his hands to Xiaochen. This was how the world of cultivators was. As long as one had the corresponding strength, regardless of age, the other party would treat you with respect. This person had already seen Xiaochen's strength in the water earlier. His tone was much more respectful than before. Xiaochen smiled faintly. It's just a small matter. I am just tempering my own martial techniques. The other old man smiled. Haha, little friend is too polite. No matter what, you have helped our merchant association greatly. The ship owner will thank you later. After the 2 old men spoke, they leaped back onto the bow of the ship and informed the ship owner that the danger was over. They could set sail again. When Xiaochen saw the injured black tuna whale fleeing far away, he felt it was unfortunate. Actually, if he wanted to give chase now, Xiaochen was confident of catching up. However, if the other party sank to the bottom of the water, it would be troublesome for Xiaochen to deal with it alone. It would be a waste of time, and the gains would not make up for the losses. Chapter 269. Not long after, a waiter came over and brought Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng into the ship's hold. The master of the merchant ship politely took out 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones and handed them to Xiaochen. Then he called for someone to arrange a room for the 2 of them. 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Xiaochen had no qualms about taking it. The effort he put in was definitely worth the price. After the captain left, Lu Suifeng sighed. Yesterday you told me that there were no empty rooms. Today there are 2 rooms available. It looks like you need strength no matter where you go. Xiaochen smiled faintly and did not say anything. It was good that Lu Suifeng had such an understanding. After this trip, he would probably spend more time cultivating. The room in the ship's hold was no different from a regular inn's room. Xiaochen sat on the bed and entered into a state of cultivation. From the time they left the mountain until now, it had been almost 10 days. In these 10 days, Xiaochen had a battle almost every day and gained some benefits. He had gained a lot from the earlier battle underwater. He decided to take advantage of this opportunity to raise his cultivation to peak inferior grade martial saint. Then he would try to break through to great perfection of the dragon and tiger body sculpting art's 4th layer. For the next 3 days, Xiaochen basically stayed in his room. During this time, Lu Suifeng asked him to go out for some fresh air, but he rejected him. At this crucial moment, Xiaochen did not want to waste any time. He had to endure the loneliness. Tong! Tong! There was a knock on the door. Lu Suifeng said, Yichen, we are about to reach the shore. I'll wait for you at the bow. Xiaochen opened his eyes and a bright light flashed in them. Purple electricity flowed everywhere in the room as he thought about it. Xiaochen stretched out his hand and all the electricity gathered in his right hand, forming a ball of burning electric flame. Then he flicked it gently. A flower vase on the table exploded with a bang and turned into powder by the electric flame. The powder landed on the wooden table. Xiaochen stood up and casually sent out a palm wind to scatter the powder. He said indifferently, My cultivation has finally reached peak inferior grade martial saint. My control of the purple thunder true fire is getting better and better. However, I still need some time to reach great perfection of the dragon and tiger body sculpting art's 4th layer. It cannot be done in one go. I should be able to complete it after the auction is over. Xiaochen pushed open the door and slowly walked to the bow of the ship. Soon he found Lu Suifeng. When Lu Suifeng heard footsteps, he turned his head back and discovered that the feeling that Xiaochen gave him had become stronger. He exclaimed in shock, "Yi Chen, your cultivation increased again." Xiaochen nodded and said, "I have already reached peak inferior grade martial saint. It will be difficult for me to advance any further in a short period. After one became a martial saint, it would be incredibly difficult to advance by a grade. The difficulty of advancing from inferior grade martial saint to medial grade martial saint was similar to the difficulty of advancing by a grade." Lu Suifeng could not help but smack his lips. "I really wonder how you cultivate. This speed is too horrifying." Xiaochen replied, "Aside from talent and cultivation techniques, there is also experiential training and bitter cultivation. Did you not notice that after coming out this time, your cultivation has actually improved? After that, you need to be able to endure loneliness. While others are immersed in their desires, you can make the best use of the time to cultivate. Naturally, your speed will be faster." Lu Suifeng felt slightly embarrassed. He knew that Xiaochen was talking about him. He quickly changed the topic. "After we reach the port in front, we will reach Shiha City in half a day." Xiaochen looked in the direction Lu Suifeng pointed. It was a bustling port. Occasionally ships would enter and leave. The shore was much livelier than the previous port. There was an endless stream of people walking on it. The clamor reached Xiaochen's ears even from a distance. Suddenly, Xiaochen asked out of curiosity, "Where is the end of this Black Dragon River?" Lu Suifeng was no stranger to this. He explained, "Shiha province is already at the edge of the Great Qin nation. After the Black Dragon River passes through Shiha province, it will flow through the ancient desolate land. There are tributaries there that lead to other nations. Its final destination is the boundless sea in the west." The boundless sea? Xiaochen's heart skipped a beat. Could the river on that map be the Black Dragon River? If the destination is the boundless sea, it is very similar. "We have arrived. Let's go and get the horses first." Lu Suifeng's voice interrupted Xiaochen's thoughts. He could only give up on this idea for now. Xiaochen led the dragon blood horse and slowly got off the bow. The two of them immediately mounted the horse and rushed toward Shiha City. After half a day of travel, the outline of a majestic city wall appeared in their vision. The city wall was 100 meters tall. It was so long that they could not see the end of it. Xiaochen had seen the capital of Dongming province before. It was also as majestic as this. Thus he did not have much experience. After he paid the entrance fee, he entered the city smoothly. The streets of Shiha City were incomparably wide. There were also special roads for carriages and sidewalks. Thus, although there were many people, it did not seem too crowded when the two of them rode on their horses. After asking around for the nearest inn, the two of them rushed over. After they tied up the horses outside, they walked in through the main doors. Liushang Pavilion. Xiaochen looked at the signboard of the inn and smiled faintly. He did not expect there to be a branch of Liushang Pavilion here. It seemed like he still had a VIP card. There was an opportunity for him to use it. Perhaps it was because of the large-scale auction. The business of the inn was very good. The first floor was full, and the second floor was also full. There were even some people waiting in line. Lu Suifeng said somewhat helplessly, "It looks like we can only change to another inn. From the third floor of Liushang Pavilion, we need a VIP card." Xiaochen smiled and said, "There's no need. Let's go to the third floor. I happen to have a VIP card for this inn." Xiaochen took out his VIP card and showed it to the person standing guard on the third floor. After he took a look, that person immediately respectfully welcomed Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng. His attitude was incomparably humble. This was because the VIP card that Xiaochen took out was of the highest grade. It allowed them to go directly to the fifth floor of Liushang Pavilion. The people who could have such a VIP card had to have a high status. Lu Suifeng said in surprise. It really is a VIP card of Liushang Pavilion. How did you get it? This thing is not easy to get. Xiaochen smiled. This one was opened by that damn fatso. To him, a VIP card is just a small matter. However, the two of them seemed to have bad luck. There were still no empty tables on the third floor. Xiaochen looked around and said, Let's go to the fourth floor. I don't believe that it is so difficult to even eat a meal. After flashing the VIP card, the two of them went to the fourth floor. The fourth floor was different from the third floor. It was all individual booths. It was much quieter. After they called the waiter over, they finally received a reply. There was still an empty booth. Hold on, I want this booth. Just as the waiter was about to bring Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng over, a discordant voice came from behind them. Xiaochen frowned slightly and turned around to take a look. It was a group of youths dressed in black. There were 5 of them, both male and female. There were 4 white snowflakes embroidered on the chest area of their clothes. This was the symbol of the Night Spirit Palace. Black represented the night, and snowflakes represented the cold. Only core disciples could embroider these 4 snowflakes. The person leading them had a grave and stern expression. He had an imposing appearance. He had a sword at his waist. When he saw the identity token on Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng's waists, a look of disdain flashed in his eyes. When the waiter saw this person, his expression changed slightly. He said, Young master, sure, this is not good. We have already agreed to give them this booth. This person smiled faintly and walked forward. He did not even turn his head back as he said, We have not entered yet, right? I will treat them to this meal. We will talk after we finish eating. Go and make some preparations. His tone was very indifferent. He treated Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng like air, completely ignoring them. However, the waiter blocked in front of the man with the surname Sure. He said awkwardly, Sorry, our Liushang Pavilion has our own rules. First come, first served is the basic rule. I hope young master Sure does not make things difficult for us. A gloomy look flashed on Sure Feng's face. He did not expect that this waiter, who usually gave him face, would say such words at this moment. Say that again. Do you believe that I can shut down Liushang Pavilion in Shihe City with just one word? The waiter hesitated in his heart. He did not know what to do. The Sure Feng in front of him was the second son of the Sure clan, one of the 3 noble clans of the Shihe province. Each of the 3 noble clans was a huge power, especially the Sure clan. Coincidentally, their headquarters were in Shihe City. They had a lot of power in the area. If they offended the Sure clan, it would be hard for Liushang Pavilion to do business. However, on the other side, Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng's status was not just for show. Liushang Pavilion had a limited number of VIP cards. They would not casually hand them out. If they offended them, it would be hard to explain. Senior brother Sure Feng, since there is such a rule, let's wait for a while, the pretty girl among the 5 said. One of the 5 followed up. Senior brother Sure, I think we should go to another place. There is no need to make things difficult for a waiter. On the surface, it looked like he was advising Sure Feng, but in reality, he was saying that Sure Feng was not magnanimous and only dared to make things difficult for a waiter. Sure Feng glared at this person fiercely. A trace of anger flashed in his eyes. However, he could not say anything in front of the girl. He turned around and smiled at the girl. Junior sister Mu, don't worry. My Sure clan is still able to handle this matter in Shihe City. Don't you think so, waiter? Aside from participating in the auction, one of the main reasons he came down the mountain was because of the girl in front of him, Mu Yanxue. Mu Yanxue was the most beloved daughter of the Night Spirit Palace's second palace master. He had pursued her in the Night Spirit Palace. Be it in terms of appearance, temperament, or status, she was the ideal candidate for him. The most important thing was that if he married this girl, his position in the clan would be even more stable. In the future, when he fought for the position of clan head, he would have an additional bargaining chip. If he could not even secure a small table in his own territory, he would lose a lot of face. Seeing Sure Feng use the Sure clan's name to pressure him, the waiter immediately felt put on the spot. He could not help but look at Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng. hoping that they would take a step back. Xiaochen smiled helplessly to himself. He did not expect that even a meal would not be peaceful. Everywhere he went, he would run into idiots. The current Xiaochen was no longer that reckless youth who had just left Mo City. He was much calmer now. He would not casually reveal the sharpness of a cultivator. Xiaochen turned around and led Lu Suifeng to the 5th floor. Most people would not be able to go up to the 5th floor, so it should not be a problem to have a meal there. Chapter 270. Stop right there. Did I tell you to leave? I already said I would treat you to a meal as compensation for taking up your spot. Are the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's people not going to give me any face? When Shifeng saw Xiaochen turn around to leave, he took 2 steps forward and said unforgiving words. The people of the 3 great sects of the Great Qin nation were not happy with each other. When they met, the smell of gunpowder would be very strong. This was especially so for the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and the Misty Sword sect. When the disciples of these 2 sects met, they would start fighting without saying a word. Of the 3 great sects, the Night Spirit Palace was ranked the lowest in terms of overall strength. If Xiaochen could trample on these 2 Heavenly Saber Pavilion disciples, he would definitely be able to leave an impression in Mu Yanxue's heart. Shifeng thought to himself, the 2 of them are only inferior grade martial saints. Furthermore, this is Shiha City. I am confident I can defeat them. Xiaochen stopped walking and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Just because he withdrew his sharpness did not mean he did not have it. Just because he was low-key did not mean he would allow others to bully him. Lu Suifeng said in a soft voice. Yi Chun, this person is Shifeng, the 2nd son of the Shi clan, head of one of the 3 noble clans of the Shiha province. He has an inherited bloodline martial spirit, and is a medial grade martial saint. He is a famous expert among the younger generation of the Shiha province. In a distant booth, a man and a woman wearing the Misty Sword sect's uniform were drinking wine and chatting. When the woman saw the person opposite her looking elsewhere, she could not help but feel it was strange. So she looked over as well. When the woman saw the situation clearly, she revealed an astonished expression. She said softly, "It's the people from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and the Night Spirit Palace. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's people are at a disadvantage. They are at a disadvantage in both numbers and strength. Senior Brother Chu, do you recognize them?" The man carried a sword on his back and his handsome face always had a calm expression. This was the person that Xiaochen feared, Chu Chaoyan. Chu Chaoyan shook his head slightly and took a sip of wine. He said, "He seems familiar. However, I can't remember where I saw him before. Let's take a look." Xiaochen's temperament gave him a very familiar feeling, but looking at that ordinary face, Chu Chaoyan really couldn't remember where he had seen it before. Furthermore, Xiaochen's martial spirit had already entered his body. He couldn't sense the aura of the blue dragon martial spirit, so his intuition told him that he should have seen this person before, but he didn't know who it was. When Shifeng saw that Xiaochen had stopped in his tracks, he revealed a complacent expression. He smiled and said, "You can stand there. Don't move before I finish eating. How much you want to eat will be on my tab. Junior sister, let's go." After Xiaochen spoke, he turned around and led the 4 of them to the room. The person who was on good terms with Shifeng smiled and said, "Senior Brother Shi, I did not expect you to scare 2 Heavenly Saber Pavilion people into not daring to move with just a few words. You are really powerful." The complacent expression on Shifeng's face became even denser. He casually glanced at Mu Yanxue and smiled faintly. "They are just 2 inferior grade martial saints. Even without my Shi clan's name, I can easily defeat the 2 of them. There is nothing to fear." However, Mu Yanxue's expression did not change. She only forced a smile. She felt something was wrong in her heart, but she could not tell what it was. "It is not that I am boasting, but there is no one in Shiha City who would not give face to the Shi clan. This time, you are here to participate in the auction. If there is anything you want, just tell me. My Shi clan will help you bid. Even a martial king would not dare to mess around." Shifeng smiled as he walked. Huchi. Just at this moment, there was the sound of an intense wind coming from behind Shifeng. A vast killing qi surged over. The aura was so strong that it caused the 5 of them to tremble. Feng's reaction was the fastest. The instant he heard the sound of the wind, he instantly turned around. When he saw Xiao Chen's figure clearly, he did not panic. Instead, there was some excitement on his face. He smiled faintly. If you did not make a move, I would not be able to do anything to you. If you dare to make a move against me, you can forget about leaving this Liushang pavilion. Xiao Chen could not be bothered with Feng. He increased his speed and circulated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. Then he punched at Feng's face. Feng mocked. You actually dare to use your fists and legs in front of me? You are seeking death. After Feng spoke, a spiraling azure-colored rock appeared under his feet. This was the Shi clan's inherited martial saint, the Qingtian stone. The rock turned into azure-colored lines and quickly extended towards his right hand. Finally, it formed a strange whirlpool on his palm. Feng clenched his fist and the whirlpool immediately disappeared. It merged with every inch of his palm and carried a horrifying force as it smashed towards Xiao Chen's fist. Bang! When the two fists collided, there was an intense explosion in the quiet fourth floor. A horrifying shockwave spread out and smashed some of the surrounding tables into pieces. Feng's body flew backwards. The rock on his arm started to explode from his fist to his shoulder, turning into a pile of stone fragments that fell to the ground. Xiao Chen's body did not move at all. His aura surged and the bones in his body started to crackle. The image of a tiger and dragon intertwined. Xiao Chen shouted and pushed off the ground. He did not hesitate to chase after Feng. How can this be? Feng actually lost to this person in a fists and legs competition. A Night Spirit Palace disciple said in disbelief. The Shi clan's inherited martial spirit can increase the strength of a cultivator's physical body by 50%. Its defense and strength will be greatly increased. How could he lose so thoroughly? Mu Yanxue muttered to herself in silence. She knew that Feng had kicked an iron plate this time. This is good as well. This will save me from doing some strange things in the future, Mu Yanxue thought to herself. Feng was incomparably shocked. Since he started cultivating, this was the first time he suffered such a disadvantage in a fists and legs competition. So, Feng's body sank to the ground. The instant his feet landed, the Qingtian stones wrapped around his feet and grabbed him firmly, preventing him from moving back. When Feng saw Xiao Chen charging over with a ferocious momentum, a murderous intent flashed on his face. Xiao Chen shouted and the Qingtian stones covered his entire body. The aura of his innate martial spirit spread out completely. All the cultivators on the fourth floor felt some pressure. Xiao Chen clenched his fist and punched ferociously. The fist wind broke through the air and gave off a sharp sound. A huge Qingtian whirlpool formed in the air. Feng said coldly. The force of this punch is 5,000 kilograms. Let's see how you break this. Scram. Bang. Xiao Chen had a stern expression as he roared. It was like the roar of a dragon and a tiger, piercing through the sky. His entire body gave off a faint golden glow. The image of a tiger and a dragon quickly infused into his fist. Great dragon tiger fist, dragon hisses tiger roars. With the dragon and tiger body sculpting art circulating at full force, the force of this punch was already the peak of what Xiao Chen could deliver. The force of this punch reached 6,000 kilograms. Bang! When the two fists met, there was a loud sound. The Qingtian stones on Feng's body shattered. Under the shock wave, they turned into powder and drifted away in the wind. Puziai! Feng vomited a large mouthful of blood as his body flew backward like a sandbag. With a bang, he smashed through the wall of the fourth floor and fell heavily on the third floor. The sudden fall of Feng startled the customers on the third floor. They quickly got up and dodged. Some of the cultivators who recognized Feng were shocked. They did not know who was so bold as to attack the Shi clan in the Shiha province. Uchi. Xiao Chen's body passed through the hole in the wall. His figure flashed in the air, and he stomped on Feng's chest, pushing the struggling Feng back. Feng vomited another mouthful of blood and coughed a few times. He pointed at Xiao Chen and said in horror, "Quickly let me go. Otherwise, you can forget about leaving Shiha City." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and ignored him. He said in a deep voice, You want to use my status as a Heavenly Saber Pavilion Corps disciple to give you face to chase girls? Unfortunately, you found the wrong target. In front of me, you are not even qualified for me to draw my saber. Right after Xiaochen spoke, he kicked Shifeng's waist violently. Xiaochen did not hold back in this kick. Shifeng, who could not resist at all, was kicked into the air and flew in an arc. He accurately passed through the window of the 3rd floor and landed on the street. On the 4th floor of Liushang Pavilion, Chu Chaoyan looked at Xiaochen's back and smiled faintly. So it is him. I was wondering why I could not find him. So he changed his appearance and ran to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The girl opposite asked out of curiosity, Senior Brother Chu, is that someone you know? Chu Chaoyan stood up and smiled gently. Old friend. This fellow will not have peace no matter where he goes. He is like a sharp treasured saber. Even if it is sheathed, the instant it is unsheathed, it will give off a terrifying light. When Mu Yanxue saw Shifei flying out of the window through a crack in the wall of the 4th floor, her expression changed. She quickly said, Go down and stop him. If we let him go, it will be hard to explain to the Shi clan. The Shiha province had a close relationship with the 3 great clans and the various great sections. They were like allies. For example, the Yin clan had a close relationship with the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The Yen clan had a close relationship with the Misty Sword sect, and the Shi clan had a close relationship with the Night Spirit Palace. Thus, Mu Yanxue could not just sit back and watch. After Xiaochen humiliated Shifei, he swaggered off. Otherwise, if the Shi clan really chased after him, she would not be able to explain to the Night Spirit Palace. The 4 of them drew their weapons and quickly jumped down from the crack in the wall. They each stood in a corner and surrounded Xiaochen. Lu Suifeng was about to jump down as well. However, he discovered that a hand had grabbed his shoulder at an unknown time. Lu Suifeng's expression changed as he turned his head to look. He exclaimed, Chu Chaoyan, why are you here? The top expert of the Misty Sword sect, the archenemy of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Lu Suifeng was very familiar with this person's appearance. However, what he usually saw was a portrait. This was the first time he saw the person in person. Chu Chaoyan smiled faintly. Don't be nervous, nothing will happen to your friend. If you go down, you will only cause trouble for him. Chu Chaoyan's words were very soft. He did not release any aura or killing chi. However, it caused Lu Suifeng to feel a formless pressure. He did not dare to move. The customers on the 3rd floor had already moved to the side. However, they did not go very far. They just watched the commotion on the 2nd floor. So, it is the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's people fighting with the Night Spirit Palace's people. However, why is there only one bladesman from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? It is dangerous to fight 1 against 4. Chapter 271. Who cares? As long as there is a show to watch, it is fine. The 3 great sects are not willing to submit to anyone. This is a good opportunity to see the strength of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and the Night Spirit Palace. The person leading the Night Spirit Palace seems to be the daughter of the 2nd Palace Master, Mu Yanxue. She is already a medial grade martial saint. Who is the person from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Do you know him? I don't know him. He should have just left the mountain recently. He is probably here to participate in the auction. Discussions rose up in the crowd. It was very lively. Everyone was very excited. Mu Yanxue pointed her sword at Xiaochen. She said in a melodious voice, This friend, can you stay here for a while? I do not wish to make a move. Xiaochen smiled faintly. He did not withdraw his aura at all. He said mockingly, What are you staying here for? Waiting to die? If you want to keep me here, then show me what you are capable of. Mu Yanxue blushed slightly. She did not expect Xiaochen to be so rude. She shouted coldly, In that case, let me see what you are capable of. Pussy. Right after the other party spoke, the 4 of them sent out a sword chi each. They tore through the air and flew at Xiaochen. When Xiaochen saw the sword chi flying at him, he shook his head. Although the sword chi of these 4 people were very powerful, they were not sharp enough. Compared to the 2 old men on the merchant ship, they were much weaker. Xiaochen used his palm as a saber and brandished it left and right. He did not move at all. He executed the dragon and tiger body sculpting art to its limits. When the sword chi struck his arm, it gave off a melodious ding-dang sound. Xiaochen used the strength of his physical body to block it. The four of them were startled. They did not expect Xiaochen's physical body to be so strong. They quickly gave up on using their sword chi to attack. The swords in their hands released a blazing sword light as they hacked at Xiaochen. Xiaochen knew that these four people were not trying to kill him. They were just trying to delay him until the Wang clan experts arrived. I can no longer hide my strength. I have to end this quickly. Otherwise, when the Wang clan experts arrive, I will be in trouble. Even if I leave, it will be difficult for Lu Suifeng to do so. Xiaochen flipped his palm, and the lunar shadow saber immediately appeared in his left hand from the universe ring. Xiaochen placed his right hand on the saber hilt, and paused for a moment. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. Xiaochen infused his state of thunder into his saber, raising his aura and state to their limits in a short time. In that instant, dark clouds churned in the sky above Liushang Pavilion. Muffled thunder roared incessantly. The might of thunder instantly formed. Rushing thunder saber art, drawing the saber. Xiaochen shouted and unleashed the state of thunder with all his might. A clap of thunder resounded in the sky. In the next moment, everyone seemed to see a bolt of lightning leaping out of the scabbard. Bang! The three people in front of them felt their vision blur. A terrifying energy swept over them, and they were immediately sent flying back. Electric currents coursed through the meridians in his body, and the sword moves in his hands were immediately thrown into disarray. He was unable to execute them. Xiaochen spun around and spun his saber around quickly. Even though he was the last to move, he arrived first and placed it on the neck of the person behind him. That person was caught off guard. The sword in his hand carried a blazing sword light as it hovered above Xiaochen's head. Not daring to move at all, Xiaochen smiled gently and quickly sheathed his saber. He stepped forward and sent a palm strike at that person's chest. With a loud bang, he immediately sent that person flying. With no one blocking his way, Xiaochen pushed off the ground and turned into a beam of purple light, flying towards the crack in the fourth floor. Everything happened in the time it took for a spark to fly. From the moment Xiaochen summoned out the lunar shadow saber to the moment he made his move, it was only the blink of an eye. The situation immediately turned around. The speed was so fast that no one could react. Someone below exclaimed, "What is going on? Are the people of the Night Spirit Palace so weak?" Mu Yanxue suppressed the violent lightning-attributed essence in her body. When she heard this, she became slightly angry and shouted. It was unknown what movement technique Mu Yanxue used, but her speed increased explosively in a short time. She immediately blocked in front of Xiaochen. Mu Yanxue looked at Xiaochen and said coldly, "You are very fast. However, no one can be faster than me." A sword light flashed and pierced towards Xiaochen at lightning speed. Xiaochen quickly dodged. After that, he spun around and pushed off the wall. Then, he turned around and hacked at Mu Yanxue. Dang! The saber and sword clashed, giving off a melodious clang that reverberated in the hall. The moment the two clashed, they retreated. They were extremely decisive. They were so fast that everyone could only see afterimages. Two distinct figures in the air, one purple and one black, clashed continuously in the eyes of the crowd. The movement techniques of the two were very good. They flew around the top of the third floor, using the walls as a foothold. Unexpectedly, they did not land at all. It was like they were really flying. As the two exchanged moves, their speed was equal. Unexpectedly, they were evenly matched. Being evenly matched was not the result that Xiaochen wanted. The longer this dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Since the blue dragon cloud soaring art reached small perfection, Xiaochen had not met anyone in the same generation who could match his speed. Mu Yanxue should be practicing a peak Earth-ranked movement technique. Furthermore, it was very likely that she had reached great perfection. Otherwise, she could not be so fast. Uchi! Xiaochen raised his speed to the limit, and turned into a purple flood dragon. He roared ferociously in the air, but he still could not shake off Mu Yanxue. That black figure was like his shadow. No matter what he did, he could not shake it off. Strange. Why does it seem like the Battle Sage Origin's sticky character formula? Xiaochen muttered to himself. Xiaochen had experienced this before when he fought Lung Liusu. If you were fast, she would be even faster. If you were slow, she would slowly slow down. She would not be shaken off by your sudden decrease in speed. I have to think of a way. Since I have no way to gain an advantage in terms of speed, then I have to find another way to break through. Xiaochen shouted and found an opportunity. His body somersaulted in the air. He stomped on the roof of the 3rd floor, and a large hole immediately appeared in the wooden floorboards. Xiaochen sent out a stream of energy in the air. His body nimbly flashed through the hole, and reappeared on the 4th floor of Liushang Pavilion. A raging flame started to burn in his right eye, and a huge ball of purple flames shot out of the hole under his feet. Mu Yanxue, who was chasing closely, was startled when she saw the surging purple flame. She quickly dodged to the side. Bang! Bang! The flame did not lose its momentum. It easily burned through the floorboards of the 2nd floor. It surged towards the 1st floor, scaring the customers on the 1st floor into fleeing in a panic. After temporarily escaping from Mu Yanxue, Xiaochen looked around and quickly found Lu Suifeng. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly discovered Chu Chaoyan standing on Lu Suifeng with a smile on his face. Chu Chaoyan smiled faintly, and gently placed his palm on Lu Suifeng's body. He said, "I'll send you off." Immediately, a huge but gentle force was transmitted to Lu Suifeng's body, and he slowly floated towards the window. Xiaochen did not have time to think. He jumped out of the window as well. Before he left, he gave Chu Chaoyan a puzzled look. He did not know why Chu Chaoyan helped him. The two of them landed on the street. Lu Suifeng said, "What should we do now? Should we go back?" Xiaochen felt a headache coming on. He could not think of a way to go, and he did not know where to go. If he were alone, he could just change his identity and hide for a few days. After thinking for a while, Xiaochen said, "Does the Heavenly Saber Pavilion not have any power in Shihe City?" As one of the 3 great sects, Xiaochen did not believe that they would be afraid of an inherited noble clan. The two of them were not on the same level of strength. If they really fought, in terms of combat prowess, 10 Sure clans would not be able to defeat the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. With the pure combat prowess of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, they could easily destroy the Sure clan. Lu Suifeng smiled bitterly. "We really do not have any power in Shihe City. The royal court has very strict control over the 3 great cities in the nation. It is very difficult for the 3 great sects to infiltrate. In the city, aside from the city lord, who has the greatest power, the 3 noble clans have the greatest power. So, we are not in a good position to do anything." Xiaochen glanced around and saw that Shifeng, who had fallen to the ground earlier, had already gotten up and gone somewhere. Actually, with Lu Suifeng's identity as a core disciple of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, the Sure clan would not dare to do anything to the two of them. They could only apologize and suffer some losses. Xiaochen's expression changed as he said, "Never mind, let's leave the city first. The auction will start in 3 days. We will find an opportunity to come in and take a look." Lu Suifeng nodded. This was the only thing they could do. For now, they could not think of any better ideas. Dong, dong, dong. Just as the two of them were about to leave, the sound of rushing horses came from the road in front. A group of cultivators wearing the Sure clan's uniform rushed over in an aggressive manner. Xiaochen stopped and frowned slightly. He thought to himself, the Sure clan is extraordinarily fast. No wonder Shifeng dares to be so arrogant in Shihe City. The leader of the group was an old man wearing tight cultivator robes. He dismounted from his horse and looked at the two with a sullen expression. The old man slowly walked forward. As he walked, his chi and blood flourished. His eyes were as sharp as sabers. Just by looking at his aura, one could tell that his cultivation was not low. The old man said to the two of them, "Which of you injured my clan's young master?" Before the two of them could speak, a young cultivator of the Sure clan pointed at Xiaochen and said, "Fourth elder, it was the brat on the right who injured him." Many people in Liushang Pavilion saw it. Furthermore, he was the one who made the first move. A bright light flashed in the eyes of the Sure clan's fourth elder. It was like a sharp treasured saber staring at Xiaochen. he said in a deep voice. Can the people of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion bully my Sher clan as they wish? To think you dare to be so arrogant in Shiha City. I'll give you an explanation. If you can't explain it clearly, I will teach you how to behave on behalf of your teacher. Lu Suifeng quickly said. Senior, we did not mean to injure the Sher clan's young master on purpose. He was the one who humiliated us first. We only... Xiaochen raised his arms slightly, stopping Lu Suifeng from continuing. His gaze was as calm as still water. He met the old man's gaze without any fear. There is no need to explain too much. It is just that our skills are not up to par. There is no need to say so much. The Sher clan was clearly being unreasonable. If they were being reasonable, it would be clear who was in the right, and who was in the wrong by asking the people around them. What was the point of saying so much nonsense? As for the so-called explanation, Xiaochen found it laughable. They were clearly not in the wrong. Chapter 272. In the end, the other party acted as though they were wronged. They wanted the two of them to explain themselves. If they could not explain themselves, they would teach them a lesson. This was simply the logic of a bandit. It was inhumane and unreasonable. However, in this world, Xiaochen no longer held any hope of using reason to resolve things. In this world where human lives were as cheap as ants, the one with the strongest fist was the true reason. Right now the Sher clan's fist was harder. The other party was right. The surrounding cultivators who witnessed the incident remained silent. No one spoke up for Xiaochen. This was a typical example. Xiaochen's expression was incomparably calm. He enunciated every word clearly. I was the one who injured Shifeng. If you want to make a move, then cut the crap. As long as you are not afraid of bringing a calamity upon your Sher clan, come and fight. In this world, it was easy for a cultivator to live. However, there were not many who could live with dignity. Xiaochen had always believed that a cultivator did not have to reveal their sharpness. However, they had to have a spirit. No matter what, this spirit could not be lost. One could not be arrogant, but one had to have a lofty character. This was the principle behind it. If Xiaochen had sullenly explained and apologized, the other party would not dare to do anything to them because of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's position. However, this way, once there was a compromise, there would be a second compromise. In the end, the spirit of a cultivator would be completely gone. If a cultivator lost their spirit, no matter how talented they were, they would not have the chance to reach the peak of cultivation in the future. At this moment, Xiaochen did not hide his sharpness. His aura flourished and his killing intent was revealed. He was like a treasured saber drawn from its scabbard. The treasured saber was incomparably sharp. It pierced through the air, frightening people. The boundless clouds in the sky suddenly gathered and churned. Muffled rumbles came from within. The momentum of the lightning had been formed. What's going on? Why did the sky turn so dark? The surrounding cultivators suddenly discovered that the dark clouds above their heads had already covered the dazzling sunlight. The sky suddenly turned dark. This is the state of thunder. I did not expect this brat to comprehend it to such a high level at such a young age. He can already affect the power of thunder. This is the sign of a state reaching small perfection. I once saw it on an inferior grade martial king. Without a certain level of comprehension, normal people would not be able to comprehend it in their lifetime. However, a small perfection state of thunder is not a match for the Sher clan's fourth elder. This old man was already a peak martial saint many years ago. Although he was not a martial king yet, there were few who were a match for him within the martial saint realm. When the Sher clan's fourth elder saw Xiaochen's aura, he could not stop. In the confrontation between the younger generation of the various major forces, the older generation tacitly chose to remain silent. As long as no one was killed, they wouldn't take action. Originally, the upper echelon of the Sher clan did not intend to make a move. However, they heard that Shifeng had been thrown into the streets by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's people. As one of the three noble clans, the Sher clan's clan had felt embarrassed. If news of this spread, the Sher clan's reputation in Shiha City would be tarnished. This was why the Sher clan's fourth elder brought people to settle this matter. As long as the other party was willing to apologize and admit his mistake, they would let this matter go. However, the Shi clan head did not expect Xiao Chen to be so unyielding. He did not even bother to explain himself. At this moment, in front of everyone, the Shi clan head was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He did not know what to do. After a while, the Shi clan head knew that if he retreated now, he would not be able to face anyone. He made up his mind and said coldly, "You are just an insignificant junior, and you dare to be so arrogant. I will teach you a lesson today." The Shi clan head flipped his hand and drew his sword. He sent out a sharp sword chi at Xiao Chen. This sword chi was much sharper than a regular sword chi. It silently tore through the water like air. A clap of thunder resounded in the sky. Xiao Chen sent out a similar chi. A purple saber chi moved like lightning and clashed with the sword chi that the Shi clan had sent out. Dang! The sword chi and saber chi did not give way to each other. They clashed intensely in the air. The state of thunder that Xiao Chen infused into the saber chi flickered with resplendent electricity, giving off a zizi sound. Relying on the advantage of the state, Xiao Chen's saber chi managed to fight to a draw with the extremely dense sword chi of the Shi clan head. The Shi clan head was mildly startled. He smiled faintly and said, "Without a state to great perfection, it is just an unorthodox method. I will take you down in 10 moves." After the Shi clan head spoke, he took a big step forward and swung his sword upwards. Sharp stone spikes immediately shot out from the ground and headed for Xiao Chen. Each stone spike was about 2 meters long and incredibly sharp. If one was struck by it, even if they were not severely injured, they would at least be skinned alive. The speed at which the stone spikes extended was very fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived before Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen gauged the height of the stone spikes. They were only 2 meters long. Although they extended for a long distance, as long as he used the blue dragon cloud soaring art, he would be able to leap over them easily. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and leaped into the air. He scattered the state of thunder and launched himself at the Shi clan head's fourth elder. Seeing Xiao Chen in the air, the fourth elder revealed a pleased smile. He said, "I knew you would fly into the air and not choose to retreat." Pussy-eye, pussy-eye. The moment the fourth elder spoke, the stone spikes on the ground shot up and gave off ear-piercing roars. They shot at Xiao Chen. Their speed was actually close to the speed of sound. Xiao Chen was startled. He had not expected such a change. Without much time to think, he shouted and the image of a mountain peak appeared above his head, infusing into his saber. Lone peak kill. When Xiao Chen chopped down, a spiraling force appeared in the air. It was like a real mountain descending from the sky with a heavy force. Bang! 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 A loud sound rang out. The stone pillars in the air were all shattered by the force of this saber. Stone fragments danced in the air and fell to the ground like rain. The figure of a saber pierced through the rain of stones. Everywhere he passed, he crushed all the stones into dust, filling the air with dust. Xiao Chen's gaze was like lightning. Looking at the dust filling the air, he stabbed out with the lunar shadow saber at lightning speed. Dang! It was like he struck a hard rock. The force of the saber that Xiao Chen stabbed out was deflected. He immediately lost his balance in the air and quickly fell to the ground. Elder Shi's voice came from within the dust. He sneered, "My inherited martial spirit has already reached the large success realm. With your half-baked state of thunder, you want to break through my defense? That is simply a pipe dream." Rock-splitting arrow. The fourth elder roared angrily. Countless azure rock patterns appeared on his sword. In the next moment, all the patterns gathered at the tip of the sword. There was an explosive sound and a huge azure whirlpool appeared at the tip of the sword. From the center of the whirlpool, a sharp arrow made of azure rock flew out. It flew rapidly towards Xiao Chen. Chi, chi, chi. As the arrow pierced through the air, it gave off a piercing sonic boom. Ripples appeared in the air from the explosion. It was like countless waves appearing on a calm surface of water. Xiao Chen slowly landed. When he saw the azure arrow flying at him, his expression remained calm. Everlasting startling cloud. Circulating the essence in his body, Xiao Chen executed the state of clouds. After a while, there were large patches of clouds floating around Xiao Chen. Boom! A clap of thunder resounded in the clouds. A tiny strand of purple saber chi split apart the layers of clouds like lightning. It quickly flew towards the azure arrow. In a flash, it was like a ray of multicolored light flying by. It was so fast that it created an illusion. In the next moment, it was as if nothing had happened. The azure arrow that the Shi clan's fourth elder fired was still giving off a piercing sonic boom in the air. It flew toward Xiaochen. Soon it would catch up to Xiaochen, who was about to land. The fourth elder snorted coldly. I thought you were a powerful person. It turns out you are only a so-so. Even if you kill him, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion will not stand up for you. Seeing the azure arrow getting closer, all the cultivators present felt their hearts in their throats. They all felt that it was a pity. At this moment, Xiaochen no longer had any room to change his direction. He could only passively receive this attack. This was the full-powered attack of a peak martial saint. Even a martial king would not dare to receive it head-on. Xiaochen was only an inferior-grade martial saint. Wanting to block this move when he landed was no different from a fool's dream. It was an impossible task. The azure arrow was already less than a meter away from Xiaochen's face. The strong wind from the arrow made Xiaochen's hair somewhat messy. Xiaochen raised the lunar shadow saber in his hand and shouted, "Explode!" The purple line, which had disappeared earlier, suddenly reappeared. The instant Xiaochen spoke, the purple line spread out like a screen of water. With a bang, the green arrow in front of his forehead exploded into stone fragments that filled the sky, disappearing into the air. At the end of the line, the Shi clan's fourth elder, who was in the air, had not expected Xiaochen to have such a move. Pussy. The fourth elder vomited a mouthful of blood. The clothes on his chest were blasted into nothing by the electric light. A small hole appeared on his chest, which was covered in azure rock. Blood flowed out continuously. Although the wound was small, the electric light on it was unusually strong. It crackled nonstop, preventing the wound from healing. The purple electricity in the air moved about chaotically. Occasionally, some of the electricity would accidentally fall to the ground and explode a huge pit. Xiaochen stomped on the ground. His body was not injured at all as he landed firmly. With a flip of his palm, the remnant electricity in the air all gathered in his palm. It formed a ball of blazing purple lightning fire. With a toss, the purple lightning fire quickly flew towards the Shi clan's fourth elder. The Shi clan's chest was injured, so he could not dodge in time. He could only toss aside the sword in his hand and draw a circle with his hands, condensing an azure whirlpool. Bang! The lightning fire and the whirlpool collided, giving off a loud sound. A strange energy came from the whirlpool, sucking in the horrifying lightning fire strand by strand. The Shi clan's fourth elder scattered the whirlpool in his hand and fell to the ground with a pale complexion. Blood continued to pour out of the wound on his chest. Damn it! I underestimated this brat's state of thunder. If I had expended a little more essence, I would have been able to block his earlier attack, the Shi clan's fourth elder said hatefully. Chapter 273. A cultivator with an innate bloodline martial spirit was indeed stronger than an ordinary cultivator. Xiaochen watched as the azure whirlpool swallowed up all the lightning-attributed fire. Xiaochen thought to himself, although this was just a casual attack from the purple thunder true fire, it was very fast. Most people would have a hard time dodging it. The other party was able to block this attack with his full power despite being injured. This was enough to show that he was not simple. What are you all standing there for? Go and capture these two brats first. The Shi clan's first elder said angrily as he looked at the wound on his chest that could not be closed. The other Shi clan cultivators immediately dismounted and rushed towards Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng with surging killing intent. Xiaochen took a quick glance. There were more than 100 people surrounding them. There were 15 inferior-grade martial saints, and the rest were peak martial grandmasters. More than half of them possessed the Shi clan's inherited martial spirit. With such a group of people, even if they were to fight a martial king, they would have a 50% chance of victory. Xiaochen grasped the saber hilt with his right hand and said to Lu Suifeng, I will cover the rear. You find an opportunity to leave first. When Lu Suifeng heard this, he was slightly stunned. He smiled bitterly and said, Although I am not very strong, I know that you have no chance of victory against these people. Wang. Before Lu Suifeng could finish speaking, there was the sound of a saber humming in the sky above the street. At first, the sound was soft and inaudible. Then, it slowly grew louder until it was like thunder, deafening everyone. Lu Suifeng's face lit up in joy. He smiled and said, "It's Yin Kursen. She is the eldest daughter of the Yin clan. The Yin clan's influence in Shiha City is no weaker than the Shi clan. We are completely fine now." Boom. The roaming dragon saber, a heaven-ranked spirit weapon, descended from the sky and stabbed into the ground. The street immediately shook. A sparkling and translucent leaf slowly floated down. The leaf disappeared. Yin Kursen, who was dressed in white, appeared. She drew the roaming dragon saber and pointed it at the Shi clan's people. The instant the roaming dragon saber left, the ground immediately stopped shaking. The Shi clan's fourth elder finally stopped bleeding. When he saw Yin Kursen suddenly arrive, he said loudly, "Yin clan's girl, this has nothing to do with you. Quickly move aside." Yin Kursen's expression was calm. She said indifferently, "Elder Shi, you have gone overboard." The Shi clan's fourth elder's face turned red. He knew that Yin Kursen was saying that he had violated the tacit understanding of the older generation and should not have made a move on the younger generation. If these words were spoken by an elder of the Yun family, the fourth elder of the Shi family would not have refuted them. He would only feel ashamed. However, when Yin Kursen said it, the Shi clan's fourth elder felt even angrier. "Since when did a little girl like you have the right to lecture me? You're not qualified. Get out of the way. Don't get in the way of our Shi family's business." Dong dong dong. The sound of horses galloping came from the deadlocked street. The Yin clan's cultivators had finally arrived. The leader, a middle-aged man, dismounted from his horse and slowly walked towards the fourth elder of the Shi family. As the middle-aged man walked, he had a majestic gait. A horrifying aura pressed down on the fourth elder of the Shi clan. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense acutely felt this aura. He was startled in his heart. This was the aura of a medial-grade martial king. Xiao Chen could not help but linger on the middle-aged man's face. The middle-aged man was not more than 40 years old. He had an outstanding aura and a grave and stern expression. A light burst out from his eyes as he said coldly, "If my daughter is not qualified, then do I have the qualifications to lecture you?" Before this overwhelming aura, the Shi clan's fourth elder found it difficult to even breathe. His pale face turned extremely unsightly. He had not expected the Yin clan's clan head, Yin Yuji, to personally rush over for this matter. Before the absolute strength of the other party, how could he dare to show any anger? He smiled embarrassedly and said, "Clan head Yin, our clan head personally instructed these two people to apologize to our Shi clan. I hope." Scram. Yin Yuji was expressionless. Without waiting for him to finish, he scolded, "Scram before I get angry. If Shi Yang insists on apologizing, I can accompany him to the city lord's residence. We can see who is right and who is wrong, and who should apologize to whom." The Shi clan's fourth elder's face turned red. He had not expected the other party to not give him any face. He waved his hand and said, "Yin Yuji, just you wait and see." After he spoke, he immediately led the Shi clan's cultivators away. This time, the Shi clan had completely lost face. First, it was Shi Feng who was tossed into the street by Xiao Chen. Now his fourth elder was scared off by Yin Yuji's words. It would be difficult for his reputation not to suffer. After Yin Yuji saw the other party leave, he ignored him. He turned around and walked towards Xiao Chen. He smiled and said, "You must be Yi Chen. I heard Kursen mention you. You are indeed a young hero. Come, the two of you will follow me to the Yin residence first. Once you are there, no one will dare to harass you." On the third floor of Liushang Pavilion, Mu Yanxue looked at Xiao Chen, who was with the Yin clan. She muttered, "Shi Feng probably does not know who he has offended." It looks like the Night Spirit Palace and the Shi clan will have to choose a new partner. Senior Sister Mu, just how strong is this person? Why do I feel like I can't even fight back against him? Our cultivation levels are clearly about the same. Why is that? A disciple from the Night Spirit Palace asked. Mu Yanxue muttered to herself for a while before saying, Cultivation realm is not everything about a cultivator's combat prowess. True combat prowess includes the cultivator's cultivation realm, the martial techniques and movement techniques they learn. There is also the comprehension of the states in the martial techniques. Finally, there are some external equipment such as spirit weapons, battle armor, and secret treasures. All of these together form the true combat prowess of a cultivator. The martial techniques, cultivation techniques, and movement techniques that he learns are at least superior grade Earth-ranked secret manuals. Furthermore, he has a strong physical body and comprehension of states. In terms of combat prowess, even 10 of you would not be a match for him. That person was somewhat unconvinced as he said, "Based on what you said, doesn't that mean that even first senior brother is not a match for him?" Mu Yanxue smiled faintly and said, "Mu Qingshue's cultivation is higher than his. His martial techniques, cultivation techniques, and movement techniques are not weaker than his. The only thing he is inferior to is the strength of his physical body. The odds of victory are 50-50. Another person said, "Senior Sister Mu, aren't you overestimating him a little too much? From what I saw earlier, Senior Sister could not do anything about him. He is definitely not a match for first senior brother." Mu Yanxue said softly. 3 days later, Mu Qingshuo will be participating in the auction as well. If I guess correctly, this person will definitely be participating in the auction as well. We will know who is stronger and who is weaker when the time comes. Shiha City, in an independent courtyard of the Yun residence, Xiaochen and Yun Kursen sat at a stone table. Yun Kursen gently placed the roaming dragon saber on the stone table. She looked at Xiaochen and said, "Thank you for your roaming dragon saber. It helped me secure the position of the successor of the Yun clan." Spirit weapons could increase a cultivator's offensive prowess. However, the higher the cultivator's rank, the weaker the effect. A profound ranked spirit weapon could increase a martial grand master's offensive prowess by 20%. However, it was not even 10% for a martial saint. Only an earth-ranked spirit weapon could increase a martial saint's offensive prowess by 20%. As for an inferior grade heaven-ranked spirit weapon, it could increase a martial saint's offensive prowess by 50%. With Yun Kursen's strength, a regular superior grade martial saint would not be a match for her after her offensive prowess was increased by 50%. Yun Kursen watched as Xiaochen placed the roaming dragon saber back into the universe ring. She asked probingly, "I discovered that the saber in your hand is only an inferior grade earth-ranked spirit weapon. Why are you not using this heaven-ranked spirit weapon?" The roaming dragon saber was indeed stronger than the lunar shadow saber. However, Xiaochen had no intentions of using the roaming dragon saber. This was because the potential of the lunar shadow saber was much stronger than the roaming dragon saber. A future subdivine weapon versus a heaven-ranked spirit weapon. Xiaochen knew how to choose. Furthermore, he already had a special feeling for the lunar shadow saber. It would be hard for him to part with it for the rest of his life. Xiaochen smiled faintly. "I'm used to it already. I obtained the roaming dragon saber by chance. In the end, it is not as smooth as the lunar shadow saber." When Yun Kursen heard this, she rejoiced in her heart. She said, "If possible, I would like to buy this heaven-ranked spirit weapon. Do you have any intentions of making a move?" Xiaochen was slightly stunned. He did not understand why Yun Kursen wanted to buy the roaming dragon saber. Although there had not been a new heaven-ranked spirit weapon in the past few hundred years, there were still many heaven-ranked spirit weapons. However, the quality of a heaven-ranked spirit weapon was very good. If there were no accidents, it would not be a problem for it to last for 1,000 years. Hence, there were still many heaven-ranked spirit weapons left in the continent. After all, the roaming dragon saber was only an inferior grade heaven-ranked spirit weapon. When one reached the martial king realm, it would be insufficient. With Yun Kursen's talent, it would not be a problem for her to become a martial king. At that time, it would not be worth it to purchase a heaven-ranked weapon. Xiaochen asked doubtfully, "Are you sure you want to buy this heaven-grade weapon?" Yun Kursen nodded seriously. "And you can state your price. I am now the successor of the Yun clan. The resources that I can use are much more than before. I will not let you suffer a loss." Yun Kursen's attitude was very firm. This made Xiaochen hesitate. He could not use this roaming dragon saber. He could only use it as a backup weapon. If the price was reasonable, it would be fine to sell it. However, the situation was very strange. Xiaochen found it hard to make a decision. Could it be that this roaming dragon saber had a secret that he did not know? When Yun Kursen saw that Xiaochen was hesitating, she continued, "Brother Yi, do you know what is the most attractive thing about this auction?" Xiaochen said, "Linlang Pavilion's decennial auction. Don't they take out some valuable secret manuals, superior grade battle armor, spirit weapons, and some natural treasures? Could it be that there is something else aside from these?" Yun Kursen said calmly, "These are just the basics. The highlight of this auction is the secret treasures." Xiaochen said doubtfully, "Are you talking about the secret treasures? These seem to be present in every auction. However, there are only a few of them." Yun Kursen explained, "It is a little different this time. The ancient desolate land's fiendish demon battlefield is open again. Someone found many complete secret treasures there. This time, there will be a secret treasure in every round of the auction." A complete secret treasure. Xiaochen's heart skipped a beat as he entered deep thought. The method of manufacturing the secret treasures of the ancient era was long lost. Although there were many secret treasures passed down, most of them were not complete secret treasures. The formations in them were more or less missing. Chapter 274. For example, Xiaochen had obtained the silver warship from the ancient remnant. However, it was badly damaged. After Xiaochen used the spirit-gathering formation to repair it with much difficulty, he could barely fly. He did not know how long it would take for him to repair the offensive formations in it. There was another secret treasure, the Eastern Emperor Bell. It was also badly damaged. After he repaired it with the astral iron, he thought he could still use it. However, there were problems now. The damaged nature of secret treasures caused the value of secret treasures to plummet. However, if it was a complete secret treasure, it would be a different story. Yun Kursen continued, "I believe you know the importance of secret treasures to cultivators. You will definitely fancy some secret treasures in this auction. At that time, you will need a lot of spirit stones." After beating around the bush, Yun Kursen returned to the topic. Xiaochen could not help but laugh hoarsely. If it was really as Yun Kursen said, and there would be a large number of complete secret treasures, it would definitely attract many strong cultivators to come and bid for them. With so many people bidding, the price of the secret treasures would definitely soar. Even with the 5,000 medial-grade spirit stones that Xiaochen had, he might not be able to obtain the secret treasure that he fancied. Thinking of this, Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, "Very well, state your price." "I will sell the roaming dragon saber." Yun Kursen revealed a faint smile on her delicate face. She said, "You should have guessed that the roaming dragon saber has some secret to it. That's why I am willing to buy it. Are you not afraid of suffering a loss?" To Xiaochen, the roaming dragon saber was an unexpected gain. It could be said to be something that cost nothing. To him, it was not a loss. Furthermore, Xiaochen had studied this roaming dragon saber for a period of time. However, he could not make any headway. He only knew that it was a sharp treasure saber. If Yun Kursen could find some secrets in the saber, it would be her fortuitous encounter. It had nothing to do with Xiaochen. Xiaochen said with a smile, "It's not a loss. I don't need the blue sea wandering dragon daggers at all. Besides, since you said you wouldn't let me suffer any losses, I believe you will." Yun Kursen was mildly surprised. She did not expect Xiaochen to be so open-minded. She hesitated for a while before saying, "Actually, there is an inferior grade heaven-ranked cultivation technique, roaming dragon incantation, hidden within the roaming dragon saber. My Yin clan has a movement technique that comes with it. It is also called the roaming dragon steps. If we use it together with the roaming dragon steps, its might will increase by many times." When Xiaochen heard this, his expression changed slightly. Among all the manuals, cultivation techniques were the most valuable. This was because martial techniques and movement techniques could not directly increase a cultivator's realm and cultivation. A heaven-ranked cultivation technique was a true top-notch cultivation technique on the continent. Even if it was just a basic cultivation technique, it was still a priceless treasure. As far as Xiaoqun knew, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion only had 3 heaven-ranked martial techniques. Only the Pavilion Master's bloodline could practice them. They were the true treasures of the sect. Yun Kursen continued. However, the cultivation technique inside requires some special methods in order to extract it completely. I promise you that after I obtain the roaming dragon incantation, I will make a copy for you. Xiaoqun took out the roaming dragon saber from the universe ring and handed it to Yun Kursen. If you can really do it, I can give you this roaming dragon saber. Yun Kursen received the roaming dragon saber and revealed a faint smile on her face. She said, "This is just an agreement between you and me. The one who truly wants to buy the roaming dragon saber is the clan's decision. The 5,000 medial grade spirit stones will be given to you. Not a single one missing." Xiaoqun thought for a while and understood the meaning behind Yun Kursen's words. The Yun clan would definitely not leak out the roaming dragon incantation after obtaining it. Yun Kursen wanted to make a copy for him. She had put in a lot of courage. If the Yun clan knew about this, they would definitely not agree. 3 days later, I will gather the spirit stones and give them to you. You should rest first. After Yun Kursen spoke, she took her leave. Late at night, the Yun clan head, Yun Yuji, and a group of elders gathered in a secret room of the Yun clan. They all had grave expressions. An elder said to Yun Yuji, "Clan head, we still have not found out the identity of that Yi Chun. This person seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. We only know that he went to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion with Feng Feishue's recommendation letter." When Yun Yuji heard this, he revealed a grave expression. After a while he said, "Never mind, just give him the 5,000 medial grade spirit stones. Don't think about anything else." An elder said unhappily, "Clan head, 5,000 medial grade spirit stones is the accumulation of our Yun clan over 100 years. Yun Yuji waved his hand and said, "Spirit stones are inanimate objects in the end. With this heaven-ranked cultivation technique, we can nurture at least 10 loyal martial kings. It would be sufficient for our Yun clan to suppress the other 2 great clans in Shiha City. Furthermore, this person has a close relationship with the Feng clan. If we make a move on him, it will be easy to offend the Feng clan. Furthermore, I do not wish to put Kursen in a difficult position. Don't mention the matter of silencing him again." There were still 3 more days before the auction started. During these 3 days, Xiaoqun did not stop. He made good use of his time every day to cultivate, stabilizing his strength as a peak inferior grade martial saint. He was making preparations to break through to medial grade martial saint. Once he became a medial grade martial saint, Xiaoqun would be able to use the large number of medial grade spirit stones in the universe ring. The spiritual energy contained in medial grade spirit stones was not only pure, but it was also very vast. Using a medial grade spirit stone to cultivate for a day was equivalent to cultivating for a week normally. Furthermore, this was based on the density of Lingyun mountain range's spiritual energy. If it was based on the density of spiritual energy on the ground, it would be equivalent to cultivating for half a month normally. This was also why the value of medial grade spirit stones was so high. To cultivators, their lives would come to an end one day. Within a limited amount of time, they would be able to absorb as much spiritual energy as possible. Their cultivation would also increase. To Xiaoqun, the large amount of time he could save was incomparably important. Xiaoqun only started cultivating at the age of 15. As for those geniuses, they started cultivating from the moment they were born. They were many times stronger than him. Hence, Xiaoqun did not dare to relax for even a moment. Even so, his cultivation was still lower than those geniuses. Hence, he had to think of other methods. Medial grade spirit stones was one of them. It was an important method for him to catch up to those geniuses. This was also one of the reasons why Xiaoqun agreed to sell the roaming dragon saber to Yun Kursen. It was because he urgently needed a large number of medial grade spirit stones. 3 days passed very quickly. Early in the morning, Xiaoqun had just opened his eyes when he felt a strong aura slowly heading towards his courtyard. Xiaoqun got up and rushed out. He discovered the Yin clan's clan head, Yun Yuji. He cupped his hands and said, "Senior Yin, is there something you need from me?" Yin Yuji's gaze was like lightning as he scanned Xiao Chun from head to toe. He nodded to himself. Although Xiao Chun's cultivation was not very high, his essence was calm and reserved. There was no sense of restlessness. It was clear that he had put in a lot of effort into it. Furthermore, from the information that he had gathered in the past 3 days, he had gained a deeper understanding of Xiao Chun's strength. He knew that although Xiao Chun was only an inferior grade martial saint, he was not weak at all. He knew that although Xiao Chun was only an inferior grade martial saint, his true combat prowess was already comparable to a regular superior grade martial saint. Being able to have such a cultivation at such a young age, his future would be even brighter. Hence, Yin Yuji completely gave up on the idea of killing Xiao Chun to renege on the 5,000 medial grade spirit stones. If he was not careful and allowed Xiao Chun to escape, the Yin clan would be in trouble when he matured. Instead, he might as well build a good relationship with Xiao Chun before he matured. In the future, the Yin clan might gain a strong helper. Yin Yuji collected his thoughts and smiled. 5,000 medial grade spirit stones is a large sum for the Yin clan. I only managed to gather them now. With a hualala sound, Yin Yuji flipped his palm and a large pile of glittering medial grade spirit stones appeared on the ground. Under the sunlight, they were very dazzling. This was not the first time Xiao Chun had seen so many medial grade spirit stones. However, he still felt somewhat excited in his heart. However, he still maintained a calm expression. That's right, our Yin clan will be going to the auction today as well. Do you want to come with us? Yin Yuji invited warmly. Xiao Chun preferred peace and quiet. Furthermore, he did not want too many people to know about the things he was auctioning. So he could only reject politely. Yin Yuji smiled faintly and did not force the matter. Then he took out a VIP card and handed it to Xiao Chun. He said, "This VIP card can give you a VIP room in the auction. Keep it. Consider it a small token of this Yun's appreciation." Xiao Chun had always been a straightforward person. This VIP card was useful to him and could save him some trouble. Xiao Chun did not reject it and received the VIP card. He thanked Yin Yuji. "Many thanks for Senior Yun's kind intentions. I will remember this favor." Yin Yuji laughed loudly and said, "It is just a VIP card. It is not much of a favor. I will take my leave first." After Yin Yuji left, Xiao Chun slowly calculated in his heart. Adding the 5,000 medial grade spirit stones from earlier, the 5,000 medial grade spirit stones from the underground world, and the 200 medial grade spirit stones from the mission reward, there was a total of 10,200 medial grade spirit stones. There was a total of 10,200 medial grade spirit stones. This was a huge sum. If converted to inferior grade spirit stones, it would be 100. Such a large sum was comparable to the accumulation of some noble clans for hundreds of years. If he used all of it for cultivation, it would be sufficient for him for a long time. There were also some inferior grade spirit stones. These inferior grade spirit stones came from a variety of sources. Some were exchanged with gold, some with spirit pills, and many were obtained from bandits in the Devil's Savannah. All in all, there were about 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. To Xiao Chun, these inferior grade spirit stones were no longer very useful. He could only use them as currency to conduct transactions. Aside from this, there were also some demonic cores that he obtained in the subspace. If he exchanged them for spirit stones, they would be a large sum. After he finished his calculations, Xiao Chun said, "No matter how good the treasures in the auction are, I can only spend 3,000 medial grade spirit stones at most. The remainder have to be used for cultivation." Originally, Xiao Chun's goal in the auction was to obtain a lightning-attributed martial technique. At most, he would only need to spend 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. However, when he heard from Yun Kursen that there would be a large number of secret treasures in the auction, he had no choice but to have another goal. To a regular cultivator, secret treasures could only increase their combat prowess. However, to Xiao Chun, with the help of the Compendium of Cultivation, he could obtain some complete secret treasures. Who knows, he might be able to refine his own secret treasures in the future. Chapter 275. If he could completely grasp the method of refining secret treasures, he would not have to worry about not having enough spirit stones to use in the future. Thus, this secret treasure was something that Xiaochen wanted to obtain. Not long later, Lu Suifeng rushed over. He had an excited expression on his face. Lu Suifeng said, "Yi Chen, the Yun clan had invited us to the auction. Are you going?" Xiaochen shook his head. "I have already rejected him. If you want to go, you can go by yourself. I prefer peace and quiet." Lu Suifeng said, "Never mind, I will go with you." The two of them stopped talking and walked out of the Yun residence. After they found out the address of Linlang Pavilion, they immediately headed over. Along the way, they met many cultivators rushing over. They were all heading in the direction of Linlang Pavilion. There were people from all sorts of sects and places. It was very lively. The two of them were not slow. They arrived at the entrance of Linlang Pavilion after 10 minutes. However, they discovered that there were many cultivators gathered at the entrance. However, they were all blocked by the guards. After asking around, they found out that the requirements for this auction were very high. Those without a martial saint cultivation or an invitation card were not allowed to enter. This way, a large group of martial grand masters were blocked at the entrance. There were many of these cultivators, and they all had dissatisfied expressions on their faces. However, they did not dare to act recklessly. Lu Suifeng said in a soft voice, "Fortunately, I am already an inferior grade martial saint. Otherwise, I would not even have the qualifications to enter. This standard is very high." It was necessary for the requirements to be high. The space in Linlang Pavilion was fixed. If so many people were allowed in, the seats would not be high. Then the auction would not be able to continue. The two of them parted the crowd and walked towards the entrance. The guards at the entrance took a look at their cultivation and let them in. They did not stop them. "Please purchase your tickets first." Just as the two of them stepped through the entrance, they saw a simple counter at the side. A pretty girl behind the counter spoke to them. Lu Suifeng was about to step forward and ask when Xiaochen stopped him. He took out the VIP card that Yin Yuji had given him. The woman took the VIP card and glanced at it. She immediately smiled and said, "So the two of you have a VIP card. In that case, there is no need to buy a ticket. You can go directly to the second floor and find the room number." Xiaochen took back the VIP card and walked to the second floor of the auction house with Lu Suifeng. The auction house had an arched structure. At a glance, the seats in the hall were almost all occupied. It was bustling with activity and people were surging about. Xiaochen found a manservant. Under the manservant's guidance, he quickly found his private room. The space in the private room was very spacious. The window was wide open, and one could clearly see everything in the hall from the inside. The field of vision was very wide. Lu Suifeng felt it was strange and asked, "I did not expect there to be a private room." "That's right. When did you get your VIP card? Don't tell me this Linlang Pavilion was opened by that damn fatso." Xiaochen sat comfortably on the round wooden chair. He took a sip of tea and said, "Of course not. The VIP card was sent by Yin Yuji this morning." Lu Suifeng said unconvinced, "How depressing. Why didn't that fellow give me one?" Xiaochen smiled faintly. "If you sold him a heaven-ranked spirit weapon, he would have given you one. Let's not talk about it anymore. The auctioneer is coming." Lu Suifeng stopped asking and looked through the window. Indeed, he saw the auctioneer walking out with a smile on his face. With the appearance of the auctioneer, the chatter in the hall gradually died down. When the noise completely quieted down, when everything quietened down, the auctioneer's loud and clear voice rang out in everyone's ears. "Thank you everyone for participating in our Linlang Pavilion's once-a-decade large-scale auction. I will make a long story short. After a simple introduction of the auction, we will begin immediately. We will not waste everyone's time. This auction will be divided into 10 rounds. The things auctioned will be more precious with each round. It is as everyone guessed." After the auctioneer said this, he paused for a while before raising his voice. "In every round, we will auction a complete secret treasure. That's right, a complete, undamaged ancient secret treasure that can be used immediately after the auction." Just as the auctioneer's passionate voice fell, The quiet hall was immediately filled with the sounds of discussions. The hall became noisy once again. It is really a complete secret treasure, a total of 10 complete secret treasures. Linlang Pavilion is really generous. I heard long ago that the gates to the demon battlefield reopened. Looks like after this auction, there will be even more cultivators going there to try their luck. Haha, without the cultivation of a martial king, if you want to go to the demon battlefield, aside from seeking death, there is no other result. Even a martial king might not be safe and sound there. This time, I heard that many famous martial kings have died there. Demon battlefield. This was the second time Xiaochen heard of this term. Xiaochen thought to himself, what kind of place is that? Why would there be secret treasures there? If I have time in the future, I can go there and join in the excitement. The auctioneer looked at the hall and was very satisfied with the effect of the discussion. After the voices gradually became weaker, the auctioneer looked at the hall and was very satisfied. After the voices slowly weakened, a clear and resonant voice rang out once again. The rules of the auction will not change. Everyone knows this, so I will not say it. There is only one change. All transactions can only be completed with spirit stones. A medial grade spirit stone can be exchanged for 100 inferior grade spirit stones. Now the auction officially begins. The first auction item will now be revealed. It is a superior grade spirit stone. The starting bid is 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones. The auction will now begin. The first item to be auctioned was actually a superior grade spirit stone. Not only was Xiaochen and his booth surprised, but everyone in the hall was also shocked. A superior grade spirit stone was equivalent to 100 medial grade spirit stones, which was 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. However, everyone knew that this was not how the price was calculated. Just like how no one would be foolish enough to exchange a medial grade spirit stone for an inferior grade spirit stone for no reason, no one would use a superior grade spirit stone to exchange for an inferior grade spirit stone. The value of a superior grade spirit stone was no longer as simple as a spirit stone. It could be considered a natural treasure. The spiritual energy contained in it was not only incredibly pure, but it was also large and gentle. A cultivator of any cultivation realm could use it. For cultivators below Martial Saint, it could even raise their cultivation by an entire realm. However, no one would use a superior grade spirit stone when they were below Martial Saint. That would be a waste of a treasure. Only when one was a martial king or martial monarch would they be able to completely absorb the energy in the superior grade spirit stone without wasting anything. With the density of spiritual energy in the Great Qin Nation, the few spirit veins might not even produce a single superior grade spirit stone within 10 years. This showed how rare superior grade spirit stones were. When Xiaochen saw the superior grade spirit stone glowing with a spiritual light, he could not help but be tempted. A superior grade spirit stone was something that could only be found and not sought. It had a fatal attraction to almost all cultivators. Lu Suifeng shook his head and sighed. A large-scale auction is really different. This is only the first auction item, and I can't help but want to buy it. Perhaps it was because the superior grade spirit stone was too shocking to the crowd. There was a momentary silence. No one immediately called out a bid. 20,000 inferior grade spirit stones. 20,000 inferior grade spirit stones. I bid 30,000 inferior grade spirit stones. 50,000. However, after that, there was a continuous stream of bids in the hall. Every time, the price increased by 10,000. Soon, the price of the superior grade spirit stone reached 50,000 inferior grade spirit stones. After the price passed 50,000 inferior grade spirit stones, the number of bids decreased. After all, although a superior grade spirit stone was good, there was a limit to its value. A martial saint would only be able to obtain 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones in a year through all sorts of missions and hard work. If they did not have any fortuitous encounters, they would only be able to obtain 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones at most. That would be considered doing well. If they did not do well, they would be lucky to have 5,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Even so, 50,000 inferior grade spirit stones would require 5 years to accumulate. If they only used one superior grade spirit stone, the gains would not make up for the losses. After all, a superior grade spirit stone could only be used after one became a martial king. Not being able to use it after buying it was a problem. 60,000. 70,000. 75,000. 80,000. After the hall was silent for a while, there were bids again. At this moment, the ones bidding were all martial kings and cultivators with strong clans and sects backing them. The auctioneer revealed a joyful expression. He originally thought that the bid would only reach 50,000 inferior grade spirit stones. He did not expect it to reach 80,000. 80,000 going once. 80,000 going twice. Is there anyone who bids higher than 80,000? If there is none, this superior grade spirit stone will belong to the person in booth 8. In booth 8 on the second floor, there were two old men watching the auction below with indifferent expressions. These two old men were famous solitary martial kings in the Wuxia province. However, if one looked carefully at their eyes, they would discover that under their indifferent expressions, there was a hidden evil intent. They were incomparably ferocious. If the people below saw their appearances, they would definitely be able to recognize their names. One of them was Gu Yuntian, and the other was Gu Yunfei. These two were blood-related brothers. They had a famous nickname in the Wuxia province. They were known as the Wuxia twin demons. They were very ruthless in their actions. Killing others for their treasures was a common occurrence. Gu Yunfei smiled and said, "Big brother, it looks like this superior grade spirit stone belongs to you." Gu Yuntian smiled faintly and said, "I have been stuck at early stage inferior grade martial king for 10 years already. With this superior grade spirit stone, I will definitely be able to reach peak inferior grade martial king." One should not underestimate the difference between early stage inferior grade martial king and peak inferior grade martial king. After martial saint, it was very difficult to advance by a grade. However, with every increase in grade, one's strength would increase significantly. When one became a martial king, this situation would be even more obvious. Some cultivators with insufficient talent would be stuck at early stage inferior grade martial king for their entire lives. If one did not have enough talent and wanted to advance further, they could only think of other methods. This superior grade spirit stone was one such method. In booth 9, beside booth 8, a group of Night Spirit Palace disciples sat together. One of them said, "Senior Brother Mu, are you not going to bid for this superior grade spirit stone?" Chapter 276. The youth addressed as Senior Brother Mu was the top expert of the Night Spirit Palace, Mu Qingxue. He revealed a casual smile on his handsome face. He said, "Superior grade spirit stones are indeed precious. However, the price is already too high. There is no need to make a move. Furthermore, to me, it is something that is not essential. If I have it, it would be the icing on the cake. If not, it would not matter." The other disciples did not understand Mu Qingxue's words. Only Mu Yanxue understood what he meant. Superior grade spirit stones were very useful to cultivators with low talent. For example, Gu Yuntian. Although he had advanced to martial king, he was not talented enough. He was stuck at inferior grade martial king for 10 years. However, to a genius like Mu Qingxue, such a huge bottleneck could not happen to him. With Mu Qingxue's talent, he would only encounter such a huge bottleneck after he became a peak superior grade martial king. Hence, this superior grade spirit stone would only be the icing on the cake for him. Inside the booth, Xiaochen thought for a while. In the end, he decided to give up. His reason was the same as Mu Qingxue's. The price of 80,000 inferior grade spirit stones was already too high. It was not worth it to buy it. Furthermore, he still had the Golden Lion King's spirit core in his universe ring. The Golden Lion King had the bloodline of an ancient mutated beast. Its spirit core was no weaker than a superior grade spirit stone. In the future, if he met with a bottleneck, he could use the Golden Lion King's spirit core to replace it. 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones, I want it. Just as the auctioneer was about to close the deal, another bid resounded in the hall. Furthermore, it was 20,000 inferior grade spirit stones in one go. The auctioneer revealed an excited expression. He said excitedly, Booth 20, someone bid 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Is there a higher bid? This is a superior grade spirit stone. It can raise a martial king by 1 grade. Friend in booth 8, do you still want to raise the bid? Bang. Gu Yuntian smashed the teacup on the table with his palm. The teacup immediately shattered into powder. The indifferent expression on his face completely disappeared. He became very ferocious and revealed a murderous intent. Gu Yunfei said, Big brother, I still have 150,000 inferior grade spirit stones here. Let's see if he still dares to raise the bid. A cruel smile appeared on Gu Yuntian's face as he said, There's no need. I want to see who dares to compete with me. I will make him spit it out with interest. Gu Yunfei reacted and a smile appeared on his face. He had almost forgotten what he was doing. After the auction he could just snatch it back. When Xiao Chen heard the bid of 100,000 silver taels, he was mildly astonished. This was obviously not the true value of a superior grade spirit stone. It was too much of a loss. After hesitating for a moment, Zhang Xian's spiritual sense shot toward booth 20 like an arrow. A moment later he saw the owner of booth 20, Chu Chaoyan. Xiao Chen said doubtfully, What does he want this superior grade spirit stone for? With his talent, there is no need for it. Chu Chaoyan, who was in the private room, frowned slightly. It was like he could feel someone spying on him. He said to the girl beside him, Go out and check who is in private room 8. I can sense 2 intense killing intents. Xiao Chen quickly withdrew his spiritual sense. He thought that Chu Chaoyan had sensed his spiritual sense. It turned out that it was someone else. In the end, no one made a bid for the superior grade spirit stone. Chu Chaoyan won it at the exorbitant price of 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. The auction continued. The second item was not as dazzling. It was only an inferior grade earth-ranked spirit weapon. The starting bid was 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones. In the end, it was won by a cultivator from a small sect for 5,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Aside from the superior grade spirit stone at the start, the other items in the first round were very precious. However, Xiao Chen was not interested in them. On the other hand, Lu Suifeng spent 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones to bid for a superior grade earth-ranked martial technique. That martial technique was pretty good. It was considered a good item among superior grade earth-ranked martial techniques. Soon, the first round of the auction was about to end. At the final moment, the auctioneer's voice was clearly much more excited. Suddenly, 2 cultivators went up to the auction platform. The auctioneer explained, Everyone should be able to guess what the final item is. We have decided to use the most thorough method to display this secret treasure to everyone. Of the 2 cultivators, one had a very high cultivation. He was as strong as a peak superior grade martial disciple. The other was only an ordinary martial grand master. The auctioneer nodded to the 2 of them. The peak martial saint started to store up energy. His aura slowly gathered. The nearby cultivators could feel the pressure. When his aura reached its peak, the peak martial saint roared ferociously and punched at the martial grand master in front of him. Boom! Before everyone's astonished gazes, a light barrier suddenly appeared on the martial grand master's body. When the peak martial saint's full-powered strike struck the light barrier, it gave off a muffled sound. There were ripples on the light barrier, but it did not show any signs of breaking. On the contrary, the peak martial saint's complexion turned pale from the rebound of the light barrier. He was knocked back a few steps before he slowly stabilized himself. The martial grand master dispersed the light barrier. He was not injured at all. He removed a jade pendant from his neck and handed it to the auctioneer. After that, he took his leave with the peak martial saint. The auctioneer received the jade pendant and said in a clear and resonant voice, Earlier, everyone saw it for themselves. This jade pendant allowed the martial grand master to easily block the full-powered strike of a peak martial saint. Furthermore, it is not just a simple block. It can reflect a third of the force back to the enemy. According to the tests of our Linlang Pavilion, this secret treasure can block the full-powered strike of a peak medial grade martial king at best. The only flaw is that it can only be used once a day. Aside from that, there are no other flaws. The auction will begin now. The starting bid is 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Each bid must be no less than 2,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Linlang Pavilion's reputation had always been very good. Since the other party said that it could block the full-powered strike of a peak medial grade martial king, then it must be true. If that was the case, the use of this jade pendant was rather horrifying. Although it could only be used once a day, it could save one's life at the most crucial moment. It might even be able to turn the tables. This was because the light barrier could reflect the force of the attack. In a situation where the opponent did not know about it, it was a very good trump card. Such a secret treasure was very useful for cultivators. Everyone would encounter danger. It would increase their chances of survival. Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "This is a good thing. There are really many of them. If it does not exceed 100,000 spirit stones, I would want to buy it." Xiaochen was very interested in this secret treasure as well. If it could block the attack of a peak medial grade martial king, then it would be very useful. 20,000. 35,000. 50,000. 80,000. The bidding for this jade pendant was even more intense than for the superior grade spirit stones. In just a moment, someone called out the price of 80,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Lu Suifeng muttered to himself, "It looks like people are afraid of death." Xiaochen thought for a while and made his move at this moment. 100,000. Lu Suifeng was somewhat surprised. He said, "Yichen, you want to bid for this jade pendant as well? I thought you would not need it." In his opinion, Xiaochen's movement technique was already very fast. Even if there was an opponent that he could not defeat, he could use his movement technique to escape. Rather than spending a large amount of spirit stones to buy a defensive secret treasure, he might as well wait a while and buy an offensive secret treasure. Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, "If possible, I would like to obtain all 10 secret treasures." Furthermore, this jade pendant happens to be useful recently. After the price reached 100,000, the entire place fell silent. 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones was already a horrifying number. If anyone wanted to bid again, they would have to consider it carefully. 150,000. Right at this moment, a low and deep voice suddenly resounded, and it instantly raised the price by 50,000. It shocked everyone present in the surroundings. The auctioneer immediately grabbed the opportunity and said excitedly, 150,000 inferior grade spirit stones. A cultivator wearing black clothes is really generous. Is there a higher bid than 150,000? Xiaochen was somewhat astonished. He looked through the window and discovered that the person who bid was a peak martial saint wearing black clothes and a cloak. Under the shadow of the cloak, no one could see his appearance clearly. He looked very mysterious. Xiaochen thought for a while and continued to bid. 200,000. The auctioneer's mood was completely uplifted. The higher the bid, the more commission he would receive. He said excitedly, "Booth 18 bids 200,000. This cultivator in black clothes, are you going to continue bidding?" The cultivator in black clothes muttered to himself for a while, and raised his head to look at Xiaochen's booth. Xiaochen looked down and saw a pair of green eyes. It was very strange. The cultivator in black clothes withdrew his gaze and waved his hand to indicate that he had given up. 200,000 was already a sky-high price. Even cultivators with large sects and clans behind them would find it difficult to take out such a sum. Finally, the auctioneer called out the hammer 3 times. Xiaochen had successfully obtained the first secret treasure. Lu Suifeng said, 200,000 for a defensive secret treasure, is it worth it? Hey Yichen, what's wrong? Are you regretting it? Ever since Xiaochen saw that pair of green eyes, he had not recovered his wits. The shock that those eyes gave him was too great. It was like a demon had crawled out of hell. It was very strange. He had never seen anyone with green eyes before. Xiaochen recovered his wits and said, 200,000 is worth it. It is the full-powered strike of a peak medial grade martial king. Did you forget who targeted us when we arrived? With this jade pendant, I will give that person a pleasant surprise. The second round of the auction started. Xiaochen had already gotten some clues. The first and last items of every round were the most attractive. Indeed, it was as Xiaochen had guessed. The auctioneer slowly took out the first item of the second round. He introduced it with a smile on his face. This is a bottle of quintessence gathering pills. There is a total of 20 of them. Below Martial King, they can increase the chances of advancing by 20%. No one in the Great Qin Nation can refine such a pill. Even in the Great Qin Nation, there is a limit to the number. The starting bid is still 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Chapter 277. In booth 9, a bright light flashed in Mu Qingshue's eyes. He clenched his fist and said indifferently, I finally got what I wanted. I must obtain this medicinal pill. A true treasure did not need much introduction. The price of the quintessence gathering pill quickly rose to the horrifying price of 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones was a dividing line. Only those who could afford it could afford it. Aside from martial kings, only the disciples of the big clans and sects could afford to pay such a price. Mu Qingxue said indifferently, 200,000. Mu Qingxue increased the bid by 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones in one go. The horrifying price shocked the cultivators who wanted to continue bidding. Even if they could take out 200,000 inferior grade spirit stones, they would not be able to be as calm as Mu Qingxue. It was clear that Mu Qingxue was determined to obtain it, and would bid even higher. Booth 9. I seem to recall that Mu Qingxue entered booth 9. No wonder he is so rich and overbearing. As the first successor of the Night Spirit Palace and the strongest of the new generation, the resources that he can mobilize are not something that a regular person can compare to. The people who can compete with him will probably give up on the account of the Night Spirit Palace. Right, to prevent each other from raising the price. When that happens, everyone will be at a disadvantage. It is best to give each other some face. When the people below saw that no one made a bid, and that the price had exceeded 200,000, they started to discuss it. The auctioneer on the platform could no longer remain calm. Even if this quintessence gathering pill was sold at its normal price, it would be worth 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Now the price had only doubled. After deducting the channel fees, Linling Pavilion would not be able to earn much. The auctioneer said loudly, only 200,000? This is a genuine quintessence gathering pill. You will not be able to buy it outside of Linling Pavilion in the Great Qin Nation. 250,000. The auctioneer's eyes lit up. He laughed loudly and said, Booth 18 has made a bid. 250,000. The esteemed guest in booth 9, are you afraid to bid? The auctioneer's words were very provocative. At certain times he could increase the anger of others. Most people would fall for it if they were not rational. A faint killing intent appeared in Mu Qingshue's eyes. He said in a cold voice, 300,000. Xiao Chun had come out this time for the sake of this quintessence gathering pill. Originally, he thought that he had brought 400,000 inferior grade spirit stones with him. He was confident that he would be able to obtain it. Who knew that someone like Chen Yaojin would appear and completely ruin his plans? Xiao Chen had to obtain this quintessence gathering pill. This quintessence gathering pill was very important to him. This quintessence Xiao Chen had to obtain. This quintessence gathering pill was very useful to him. Xiao Chen would be able to use medial grade spirit after medial grade martial spirit. He said without hesitation. 400,000. He said, mu thousand. Spirit. And said, Mu Chen have mu, and said mu, he have. I have v mu. I can. Mu I have mu. I only have 5,000. 10 spirit. 10 spirit. Xiao Chen 1,000 spirit. Spirit 1,000 Xiao Chun with spirit was, Ling Chen. 500,000. Xiao Chen's expression was calm. He said casually, 500,000. The entire hall was silent. No one had expected a bottle of quintessence gathering pill to reach such a high price. 500,000 inferior grade spirit stones. A regular martial saint would have to work hard for 50 to 60 years before they could obtain it. It was an astronomical figure. However, this person did not hesitate to spend it on a bottle of quintessence-gathering pill. Booth 18. Why is it Booth 18 again? The person who won the first secret treasure seems to be this person as well. I wonder who this person is. He actually dares to snatch Mu Qingshue's things. There will be a good show to watch later. A person who can take out 700,000 inferior grade spirit stones is definitely not someone to be trifled with. There is no need to fear the Night Spirit Palace. Xiaochen made his move again. He immediately became the focal point of everyone's discussion. The auctioneer on the auction platform was very excited. His face was filled with an excited smile as he said, 500,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Is there anyone who intends to make a higher bid? The friend in booth 9, do you not want it anymore? Mu Qingshue's expression turned gloomy. He remained silent and clenched his right fist tightly. The other Night Spirit Palace disciples in the booth all felt a chill. They trembled in fear. They had never seen Mu Qingxue so angry before. After a while, Mu Qingxue relaxed his frown. He lay down gently on the round wooden chair. He shifted his center of gravity, causing the floor to sizzle. Then he slowly closed his eyes. Mu Yanxue, who was familiar with Mu Qingshue's character, knew that he was truly angry and had a murderous intent. After calling out 3 times, no one answered. Xiaochen successfully put away the bottle of quintessence-gathering pill. He revealed a faint smile on his face. Lu Suifeng said in astonishment, Xiaochen, where did you get so many inferior-grade spirit stones? 500,000. Xiaochen smiled and said, I had a lot of high-ranked demonic cores in the subspace. If I sold them all, they would be worth 200,000 inferior-grade spirit stones. I can still afford it. Originally, Xiaochen planned to keep the demonic cores in the universe ring for himself. It looked like he could only use them here. No matter what, he could only use 7,000 of the 10,000 medial-grade spirit stones. That was 700,000 inferior-grade spirit stones. He had to keep the rest for himself. The second round of the auction continued. Xiaochen noticed that the items in this round were much more precious than the previous one. Unfortunately, the item he was waiting for did not appear. The atmosphere of the auction became increasingly lively. Many cultivators managed to buy the treasures that they wanted. Soon the second secret treasure appeared. It looked like an ordinary pair of boots. However, after the demonstration, everyone discovered that it could increase the user's movement technique by close to 20%. This 20% was not to be underestimated. To martial masters and martial grandmasters, 20% was only that much. However, to high-ranked cultivators, their speed was already very fast. If they increased it by 20%, their speed would be very horrifying. After the auctioneer found someone to demonstrate it, he smiled and said, I have given this pair of boots a nice-sounding name, Windwalk Boots. 20% increase in speed. Whether it is escaping or attacking, one can advance or retreat at will. Furthermore, there are no restrictions on the usage of these boots. It will only increase the exhaustion of essence. The starting bid is still 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones. There were simply too many good things. Xiaochen immediately took a fancy to the Windwalk boots. He calculated the spirit stones he had in his heart. However, he discovered that he did not have enough spirit stones. He spent 200,000 on the first secret treasure, and 500,000 on the medicinal pills. That was 700,000. He originally had 1,200,000 inferior grade spirit stones. If he sold the demonic cores, he would be able to gather about 1,500,000. That was to say, he only had 800,000 inferior grade spirit stones left. He still had 3,000 medial grade spirit stones, so he only had 500,000 inferior grade spirit stones left. Xiaochen thought to himself, if it exceeds 300,000 inferior grade spirit stones, I will not buy it. I still have to save some money to purchase a lightning-attributed martial technique. As Xiaochen was thinking, the bidding price of the Windwalk boots had already reached 150,000 inferior grade spirit stones. 200,000. At the crucial moment, Xiaochen made another move. He raised the bidding price by 50,000 inferior grade spirit stones. The fiery atmosphere in the hall immediately turned silent. It is booth 19 again. How many spirit stones does this person have? Even a large clan would not be able to take out so many inferior grade spirit stones in one go. He is really rich. Who is this person? The people on the floor discussed in soft voices. Occasionally, there would be people looking at Xiaochen. Xiaochen hid himself at the back, avoiding these gazes. 220,000. After a moment of silence in the silent hall, someone finally made a bid. However, it was only an increase of 20,000. Xiaochen did not hesitate to call out, 300,000. The auctioneer said excitedly. The guest in booth 18 bid 300,000. Is there anyone who wants a bid higher than 300,000? Humph. The person who made a bid earlier snorted coldly, and did not make another bid. After that, no one made another bid. After 3 clangs of the hammer, Xiaochen successfully obtained this windwalk boots. The third round of the auction began. Like before, the first item of each round was very eye-catching. However, Xiaochen felt helpless and did not compete. The following auctions continued. The items were all rather good. However, there was nothing that Xiaochen wanted, so he did not make a bid. Even when the third secret treasure was auctioned off, Xiaochen still did not make a bid. The people below heaved a sigh of relief. If Xiaochen won this secret treasure again, he would block everyone else's path. This might incur public anger. The auction continued. All sorts of secret manuals appeared. However, there was no high-ranked lightning-attributed secret manual that Xiaochen wanted. He could not help but feel bored. Suddenly he frowned and raised his right hand, sending out a strand of purple thunder true fire. Pussy-eye. In an instant, the purple fire pierced through the wooden door. There was a soft cry of pain coming from outside. At the same time that he made his move, Xiaochen sent out his spiritual sense at lightning speed. However, he did not find any traces of the person peeping at him. He only saw a trace of blood at the door. What a fast speed, Xiaochen thought to himself. This person's method of hiding his aura is also very profound. I wonder who it is. Lu Suifeng said in astonishment. Someone is targeting us? Xiaochen nodded and said, Go out and stay with the Yun clan's people first. I will go out alone later. Lu Suifeng knew that Xiaochen did not want him to be in danger. After warning Xiaochen to be careful, he quickly left booth 18. Following that, Xiaochen kept an eye out. He kept his spiritual sense out, monitoring everything in his surroundings. Suddenly, a pool of flowing water appeared on the floor of the booth that Chu Chaoyan was in. After a while, the water formed into a human figure. It was the girl who went out to gather information. The girl said in a melodious voice, I found the people in booth 8. They are the Shiha twin fiends. I overheard them. They are indeed preparing to make a move on you, senior brother. Chu Chaoyan smiled faintly and said, So it is these 2 clowns. They are of no importance. Lyria, what's wrong with your hand? When Chu Chaoyan noticed a faint wound on the girl's arm, he could not help but feel suspicious. Lyria smiled and said, It's nothing, it's just a small injury. I was asking around for the person in booth 18, and he discovered me. Chapter 278. Chu Chaoyan was somewhat surprised. Lyria's martial spirit was rather special. Her method of hiding her aura was something that even a regular martial king would not be able to discover. The owner of booth 18 is the old friend that senior brother met in Liushang Pavilion. Chu Chaoyan said, So it is him. No wonder you were discovered. There is no need to bother about him for now. I have already obtained what I wanted. I can leave after the auction ends. Soon the auction reached its final round. The auctioneer took out the first item of the 8th round and smiled. The next item is a lightning-attributed peak earth-ranked martial technique, Wuxia saber technique. According to legend, the Wuxia saber is a divine tree born from lightning. In the ancient era, there was a strong cultivator who comprehended under the Wuxia tree. From there he created the Wuxia saber technique. Of course, the one in my hands is not the true ancient copy. It is just a martial technique that was completed using the incomplete Wuxia saber technique. Although it does not have the might of the legends, it is considered a peak earth-ranked saber technique. To all the bladesmen here, this is a rare martial technique. The starting bid is still 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Xiaoqin's eyes lit up. He had finally found what he had been waiting for. He did not hesitate to call out, 50,000. The person from booth 18 made a move again. This time he actually wants this saber technique. Fortunately, I do not need it. Haha, I do not need it either. Otherwise, I would not be able to outbid him. Damn it, I was just looking for a lightning-attributed saber technique. There is no hope now. I can't be bothered to bid anymore. I definitely cannot outbid this person. Even if I bid, it would be pointless. Seeing that no one made a bid in the noisy hall, Xiaoqin did not expect that he could achieve such an effect. When the auctioneer saw this, he became very anxious. Normally, this peak earth-ranked martial technique would fetch at least 200,000 spirit stones. Now no one made a bid at 50,000. The auctioneer called out a few more times, but no one made a bid. This is a great loss. The auctioneer cursed Xiaoqin in his heart. In the end, he could only say helplessly, 50,000 inferior grade spirit stones. This martial technique belongs to booth 18. Xiaoqin revealed a faint smile and said, looks like having too much money can scare people to death. This is a bargain for me. Xiaoqin had finally obtained what he had been waiting for. He had basically achieved his goal in this auction. However, as for the other 8 secret treasures, he had no choice but to take a look. After 4 hours, the auction came to an end. Linling Pavilion sent someone to deliver the items that Xiaoqin had bid for to the private room. Linling Pavilion had a professional appraiser. Xiaoqin's high-ranked demonic cores were sold without a hitch. After selling the demon cores, Xiaoqin started to pay the bill. A bottle of quintessence gathering pills, 2 secret treasures, and a lightning-attributed martial technique. A total of 1,050,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Xiaoqin still had more than 4,000 medial grade spirit stones left. Xiaoqin placed the items in the universe ring and pushed open the door to the private room. He immediately felt an intense killing intent. He smiled faintly and ignored it. Xiaoqin walked out of the door. When Mu Qingxue saw Xiaoqin leave, he revealed a faint smile on his handsome face as he held the holy weapon, Beauty under the moonlight. He said, so it is him. In the depths of Mu Qingxue's right eye, there was a simple and unadorned bronze mirror spinning rapidly. It clearly saw through Xiaoqin's disguise. Not long after Xiaoqin left Linling Pavilion, he was immediately blocked by Mu Qingxue and the others on the street. Mu Qingxue had a cold smile on his handsome face. It made his exquisite face look even more enchanting. He looked at Xiaoqin and said indifferently, I seem to remember that we met outside Yunyang City. Xiaoqin had a good memory. He was very familiar with this person. He nodded and said, we have indeed met before. However, you did not block me today just to say that, right? Mu Qingxue did not beat around the bush and said directly, give me 10 quintessence gathering pills. I will give you 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Xiaoqin had spent 500,000 inferior grade spirit stones to buy quintessence gathering pills. However, there were only 20 of them. 10 of them, even if he bought them at normal cost, would cost 25 inferior grade spirit stones. However, Mu Qingxue was only willing to pay 100,000. This was no different from daylight robbery. Xiaoqin shook his head and said, sorry, this is not for sale. Please move aside. I still have matters to attend to. Mu Qingxue's right hand moved with a so sound. He casually placed it on Xiaoqin's shoulder and said softly, did I say you can leave? You dare to snatch something that I, Mu Qingxue, have set my eyes on. I will say it again. Are you selling or not? Mu Qingxue's voice was very soft, but it did not contain any emotions. It was incomparably cold, and contained a boundless killing intent. A cold light flashed in Xiaoqin's eyes. He replied coldly, let go, I am not familiar with you. Cassier. Right after Xiaoqin spoke, he placed his right hand on the saber hilt at lightning speed. He immediately executed the rushing thunder saber techniques, drawing the saber. Mu Qingxue's reaction was not slower than Xiaoqin's. In fact, he was even faster. By the time Xiao Chen's right hand touched the saber hilt, Mu Qingxue had already unsheathed his sword. Bang! Two dazzling lights flashed in the air. The saber and sword clashed in the air, giving off a melodious clang. A strong wind blew on the street. Xiao Chen's saber arrived first despite being launched later. Although he was slower than his opponent, he used the technique of drawing the saber to increase his speed. The two of them each took 5 steps back. A huge force rebounded from the saber to their arms. This caused Xiao Chen's right hand, which was holding the saber, to go numb. He could not help but become more cautious. Dark clouds suddenly gathered in the clear sky. From time to time, muffled sounds of thunder could be heard from the rolling clouds. Mu Qingxue looked at the dark clouds in the sky and said indifferently, "Small perfection state of thunder. No wonder you dare to make a move against me. Unfortunately, it is only small perfection." Wuxia. Suddenly, a strong wind blew behind Mu Qingxue. Occasionally, there would be lightning tearing through the sky. The other Night Spirit Palace disciples quickly moved to the side. "This is first senior brother's state of wind and thunder. This fellow is dead for sure." One of the Night Spirit Palace disciples who was injured by Xiao Chen said excitedly. Mu Yanxue stood quietly at the side, remaining silent. She did not express her opinion. To her, this was a good opportunity to observe Mu Qingxue's true strength. The clouds churned in the sky, the strong wind howled, and lightning flashed. The commotion was huge, attracting the attention of almost all the pedestrians on the street. Xiao Chen's gaze was calm as water. Mu Qingxue was able to perfectly merge the two states of wind and thunder. He was truly worthy of being the top expert of the Night Spirit Palace. Wuxia. Mu Qingxue pushed off the ground, and a strong wind blew for no reason. Mu Qingxue's body soared into the air. The sword in his hand, which was as gentle as moonlight, contained a boundless killing intent as it stabbed at Xiao Chen. A cold light flashed on the sword, and a horrifying bolt of lightning appeared in the strong wind. Before the sword arrived, the bolt of lightning had already arrived before Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. His figure flashed on the ground, creating a purple arc. He dodged the lightning bolt before it arrived. Boom! The lightning bolt blasted a large hole in the place where Xiao Chen was originally standing. It kicked up a lot of dust, but the strong wind immediately blew it away. The instant the strong wind scattered, Xiao Chen's figure appeared behind Mu Qingxue. There was a loud crack of thunder in the sky. Xiao Chen carried the surging momentum of thunder as he hacked at Mu Qingxue with the lunar shadow saber. Mu Qingxue flicked his wrist, and his sword immediately blocked Xiao Chen's attack. Bang! 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 The two of them attacked very quickly in the air. When the saber and sword clashed, thunder and lightning appeared continuously. It was so loud that it hurt the eardrums of everyone present. Shockwaves that could be seen with the naked eye spread out from the two of them. When the shockwaves spread out, some of the buildings on the street were immediately crushed into dust. There was an increasing amount of dust in the strong wind. The surrounding people could no longer see the situation clearly. They could only guess the intensity of the battle from the incessant shouts. A light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He found an opportunity and immediately executed the roaming dragon's 9 transformations and the clear wind chop. Amidst the strong wind and lightning, Xiao Chen turned into 9 figures. There were 9 gentle breezes blowing on each figure. In an instant, Xiao Chen's killing chi suddenly disappeared amidst the intense battle. It was very strange. Mu Qingxue smiled faintly and said, "Qingyun Peak's secret technique, clear wind chop. You can only see the cool breeze and not the saber. It is just an insignificant skill." The holy weapon, Beauty Under the Moonlight, gave off a magnificent glow. There was a gentle golden moonlight on the sword. Amidst the blurry moonlight, there seemed to be a girl chanting softly. As the girl chanted softly, the surrounding space rippled like countless waves on the surface of water. Mu Qingxue's figure instantly became very blurry. Xiao Chen was startled. This was the Tao of the holy weapon. Mu Qingxue used the holy weapon to temporarily change the laws of this space. So, the 9 figures merged into one in the air, and passed through Mu Rongshue's blurry figure. However, Mu Chengshua's figure appeared in front of Xiaochen like a mirror image. Xiaochen had a mocking smile as he looked at Xiaochen. Then he quickly flew towards Mu Qingxue. However, at this moment, the distance between him and Mu Qingxue seemed like an eternity. No matter how Xiaochen moved, Mu Qingshue's figure was always 10 meters in front of him. To Xiaochen, 10 meters was merely a step. However, this step was a step. Although Xiaochen was astonished, he did not panic too much. He maintained his composure. Suddenly, Xiaochen stopped and used his spiritual sense to protect his body. Then he slowly descended. Even so, Mu Qingshue's figure remained 10 meters away from him, slowly descending with him. Puxi. A resplendent beam of moonlight suddenly shone on Xiaochen's eyes. The melodious voice of a girl rang in Xiaochen's ears. The moonlight blurred Xiaochen's vision. The girl's voice interfered with Xiaochen's hearing. Space started to ripple rapidly. Instantly, Xiaochen's 5 senses were all gone. Xiaochen closed his eyes and suddenly grasped the air with his left hand, grabbing the incoming sword blade. Mu Qingshue's face was filled with astonishment. He said, "That's impossible. Your 5 senses are all gone. How can you know where I am attacking?" Xiaochen remained silent. The lunar shadow saber flickered with a purple light as he chopped at Mu Qingshue's body. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.